You can't make this stuff
No,
up.
you really can't.
All righty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, February 19, 2019. Time is now 6:32. If you'll all stand and rise, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terrific, thank you. Seeing as there's no one here for public comment, we'll move right into the warrant section. We have motion to approve payroll warrant 19-33 in the amount of $159,997.60.
Second?
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor? Motion to approve bill warrant number 19-33 in the amount of $582,800, which breaks down as follows. Town, $117,229.18. Water sewer, $39,302.19. Payroll holding, $24,023.51. Health insurance, $35,622.43. Light bill, $301,664. Let me start again. Light bills, $301,664.72, and grants and revolving, $64,966.53.
Seconded.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor? Terrific. So we have, not quite yet. Let's see what we can do here without getting into those interviews, which aren't scheduled for about 15 minutes.
Do the school district thing?
May I
Or the minutes?
actually ask if I could do some of my finance director time where it's earlier in the meeting, to get some of the announcements that people don't normally hear out of the way?
I think we
That's
can
a good
indulge
idea.
you in that.
Okay. So I'll save some of it at the end, but the important stuff. So the annual town election will be held on Monday, May 6th, 2019. Polls at Town Hall will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The last day to obtain nomination papers is Thursday, March 14th. The last day to submit nomination papers is Monday, March 18th. The last day to withdraw from the election is Wednesday, April 3rd. Here are the positions up for election this year. 1 assessor for 3 years, 1 member of the Board of Health for 3 years, 1 member of the Cemetery Commission for 3 years, 1 member of the Housing Authority for 5 years, 3 trustees of the library for 3 years, 1 member of the Municipal Light Commission for 3 years, 1 moderator for 1 year, 1 member of the school committee for 3 years, 1 selectman for 3 years, 1 selectman for 1 year, 1 town clerk for 3 years, 1 tree warden for 1 year, and 1 member of the Water and Sewer Commission for 3 years. The 2019 Summer Recreation Program registration is now open. You can visit our website or our Facebook page for more information or the link to register. The ZBA is looking for members. They are in desperate need of an additional full-time member and up to 2 associate members. They have several projects coming down the pipeline and would really like to have a full board. If anyone is interested, the information is right on the front page of our website, grovelandma.com. The town is sponsoring the Red Cross Blood Drive, which is next Thursday, February 28th, from 1 to 6 p.m. We already have 28 appointments scheduled. There are 10 more openings if anyone is interested. Appointments may be made online at redcrossblood.org or by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS. And my final early comment is, we'd like residents to pay attention to the Massachusetts Universal Recycling List. People have been recycling items that are not considered recyclable anymore. So the list is right on the front page of our website. It is on our Facebook page. Please pay attention to what should be recycling and what should be trash. We appreciate your cooperation. Thank you.
Anything else?
I mean, I can do my other stuff now if you'd like, or I can hold it.
We've got another 10 minutes, really, before the first candidate comes. I don't see anything else on this agenda that's gonna take less than 10 minutes.
Sure, I just have a
Well,
couple
Tea
more.
Garden Restaurant,
I I just have two more items or three more if you want to.
Shoot them.
So I'd like to, I made the board aware, but I'd like to congratulate and thank our town planner, Rebecca Oldham. She applied for a grant for the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative Technical Assistance Program. Both she and I attended an award ceremony on Thursday, February 7th at the Topsfield Town Hall, where the Lieutenant Governor presented us with the award. We look forward to using those funds to reinvigorate our downtown, so I'd like to recognize her on that process. The Elm Square Committee, so we now have several interested parties that would make a full committee, depending on how many members you choose to put on the committee. I didn't know if you wanted to meet with the candidates, or if you wanted me to just list them for appointment, how you wanted to handle that. But we do have enough candidates for a full committee. And then the final item I have is, you'll find in your packet under correspondence a letter from Mass Housing regarding the Sewell Street Quarry Apartment Project. You can all read that. We will have a agenda item on the next meeting to discuss the board's comments. But in the letter, they do identify that they are conducting a site visit on February 27th. If any Board of Selectmen member or any board or committee member involved in the project is interested in attending, to let me know, and I can reach out and RSVP, or you're welcome to RSVP on your own. They did not specify the time, just the day, so if anyone is interested in meeting with Mass Housing at the site visit, you're welcome to do so.
Is it possible to get a time?
I certainly can
First.
reach out and ask them. I'm assuming it's going to be during the day at some point,
Well, I would think so. We won't be able to see the frogs and the turtles at night.
but I can certainly ask what time they're planning to meet. And those are all of my items. So if you want to think about the Elm Square, or, well, I guess I'll
Are
direct
we
this to
gonna
you
have
as the chair.
a member from the BOS on that committee, or
On which committee?
the Elm Square?
That's up to you guys.
And to go back a step, I'd go to that meeting, because I was in the other meeting in the beginning, the February whatever meeting. if you
Yeah,
wanna-
so, I mean, you could all go. A site visit would not require a public meeting unless you plan to deliberate. So if you're just going there, you can have more than 3 of you attend without being a posted meeting.
As long as it's, we're just observing it.
Correct. But if you're participating as a board, it would need to be posted. So Bill, I can certainly RSVP to you, for you, and I'll
Right.
find out if they have a more defined time.
Elm Square Committee, is it the board's wish that we meet with the individual candidates?
I mean, I can tell you pretty much, so from the original committee, Mike Dempsey, Betty Gorski, and Greg Stark were interested in continuing. Then we have 3 business owners from the downtown area are interested. I don't believe any of them are residents, but you did give them the ability to participate if they own the business down there. And then 1 other resident expressed an interest. So that would make a 7-member committee, if that's how, you could have a board member as a, I think Lisa was the liaison to the original committee. You could have a liaison if you didn't want an actual voting member. However you guys would like to proceed. You didn't set the number of committee members previously.
No, I think we said somewhere between 5 and 9, but we didn't really set a hard number. So,
Yeah, I definitely think we should definitely have the business owners, like we said before, and yeah, we want their input, so definitely let them be included.
sure, but I guess what I'm getting at is, do we want to interview them? Do we want to bring them in? Is it, I'm trying to get
Right, or do you just want
gauge
to
the
appoint?
feel
Yeah, I
here.
think, if they're already been on the committee, a lot of them, and.
Only 3 of them.
Right, but then you have business owners, so you only might have 1 that we haven't already talked to.
So there's 3 business owners, and then 1 resident.
Right, but the business owners are gonna pretty much be an asset anyway, so we know we want them involved. We don't have to interview them, do we, if we want them involved? Right? And we know some of the members that were there before.
We're familiar with 3 of them, for sure.
Right.
Are there any on that, if you know the address, is there anybody that lives in Elm Park on that proposed to be on as members?
I don't believe so.
No.
I do, but I'd probably defer to you where you're already heavily involved in the
Well, I've
business
already been
development
trying-
anyways, you know what I
Trying
mean?
to get involved in that,
So it
right.
may make more sense for you to be the board's liaison to that committee, I think, than
Yep.
anybody else, unless anybody has an objection.
No?
I'd like to nominate Bill Dunford to be that liaison.
Second.
Should we make that formal then, put it in a, we have a motion and a second?
Or you could wait till you make the full committee, either way, when it's on the agenda.
Oh, we can put them there now, and when we form the committee, it's already on.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Yep.
Terrific. So I guess we really don't want to, is the general feel of the board, we don't really want to interview the candidates. We'll just, number is 7. Is that good?
Yeah.
That's what you have now?
Yep.
Makes an odd number. I think it's a good, 7 is a good size. Should have a lot of good ideas, but not too many that it's becomes.
Could we have the names?
stagnating.
Yeah, I'll list the names on your agenda with the,
Are we gonna vote at our next meeting?
yes, yes. Yes, so I'll list names and addresses for the candidates. And if I received anything, several of them were verbal, a couple phone calls, but if I got anything in writing, I'll put that in there too. Okay. I'll see if he's out there, he might be sitting out there waiting.
Yeah. And that'll be March 4th, right? Next meeting? March 4th, yeah.
Maybe the guy came on the show.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Board. How we doing tonight?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Mr. Carroll, correct?
Yep.
All right, seeing as I don't think Selectman Wood had the chance last time you were absent, why don't we allow Selectman Wood to begin this phase?
Sure. So I read through your paperwork, and you've been in Portsmouth for the last year or so.
Correct.
And it looks like most of your experience has been in city size versus town size. I see that you work in Beverly as well, which is
Correct.
closer to the Groveland size. But most of the other experience has been in the larger facilities.
Yes. Portsmouth is actually smaller than Beverly. Beverly's about 50,000 people, just shy of. Portsmouth's about 25. A
Really?
little smaller. It's actually smaller. Smaller population and smaller square footage.
I would have thought it was bigger,
No, it's
just by
actually-
name only.
Yeah, just by name only, exactly. Yeah, it's only about 106 miles of road. Beverly had about 126.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I would have thought that Beverly just, by driving through it, would have been a smaller facility.
No, you get out to Beverly Farms,
Yeah.
it stretches all the way to Essex. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big area.
Okay. And it looks like, maybe you're not as familiar with the MS4 permit requirements, is that correct? Or do you know that,
no,
I
that's-
don't know much about it other than.
Sewer,
what I'm
it's
reading.
sewer storm water separation. It's
Okay.
permitting done through the EPA.
Yep,
So, it's a program you can roll in. They have, just like GIS formatting, they
Mhm.
can track your outflows, stuff like that.
okay, got it. And then part of the thing that, what I'm looking for, in a commissioner is someone who can work with us, mostly on a weekly basis, not daily basis, because we don't meeting as a board, but every 2 weeks.
Yep.
But kind of addressing some of the things that people in town have concerns over.
Absolutely.
Some things on like Lower Lower Center Street, they have issues with some of the storm drains and the beavers and the catch drains and stuff like that, that always didn't get addressed in a timely manner for some people. I know that department has a lot to do with plowing and roads and salt
Correct.
and clearing and all
As
that
we
stuff.
all do.
Right. But stuff like that is important to where, at least on my side, when someone's coming to me and say, hey, Mike, I'd like to get this taken care of as soon as possible. I know it's lower on the importance list, but it does need to be done. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who says, yeah, I got that on my list, it's not gonna get done today, but give me 2 or 3 days and it'll be on my radar and it'll get done. Then I'll let you know when it's done so you can report back to people. So I'm looking for that kind of communication level, and that kind of,
Level of
yeah,
service.
the priorities and being able to say, all right, the board is really concerned because they're getting feedback from residents on things that are important to them, and it's really a quality of life thing, right? So,
Absolutely.
when people are asking us, that means it kind of bubbles to the top of what they're looking for, and that means that, it really infects or impacts other people in that region. So is that something that you've either shown in the past, or you think will?
Absolutely. I deal with, on a daily basis, we have a C-Click Fix app that people on my phone basically email me. I respond immediately, send out personnel to address the task at hand.
Okay.
That's something that goes on the daily, and obviously I know how to prioritize. Been doing stormwater drainage systems for the past 10 or 15 years, even before I got to Beverly, installing in smaller developments, rehabbing old stuff when I was in Beverly. I also had my sewer license, so I
Okay.
know the importance of stormwater and sewer separation. It's a huge thing that, I think Massachusetts, in that particular program, most of Massachusetts is in phase 2, and there's actually a phase 3 that they're hoping to get done by 2020.
Okay.
So,
Is it safe to say, I like some of the stuff you said there, so is it safe to say from your experience that you would bring in more technology and being able to prioritize and communicate better with people in the
Absolutely.
field? Okay,
absolutely, I would love to.
okay, I like that.
Technology goes a long way, especially when you're dealing with a small town.
Right,
We don't always have the 10 guys to throw at a problem, so technology helps in managing it and allocating, personnel as well as,
it sounds like something like that in an app form allows you to register that there's something that needs to be done and then put it
yeah.
on the list of things to get done rather than trying to remember it, and then by the time you get back to the office, you got
yeah, and you always
35
have
other
a paper
things.
trail, because there's an email.
Right.
Then there's your, tag on ViewWorks that actually will give you the address.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are locked into GIS and there's a stormwater issue, it will, locate the catch basin or the invert or the pipe, or just depends on how in-depth you are
Okay.
in the system.
And it looks like you've been in Portsmouth for a year,
Yep. A
and
little over a year, yep.
does it look, you want to come to Groveland because,
So when I went to Portsmouth, one of the things that I didn't really know about with the highway department is my expertise in stormwater and sewer are kind of put to the side because of the fact that they have, in highway in Beverly, we handled all the stormwater, we handled all the sewer in-house. in
kind of
the
like
highway
Groveland would
department.
do, yeah.
How Groveland would do it. In New Hampshire, they have a completely separate department, so I really don't have any uses for my licenses and my expertise in that area.
Okay,
So as much as I love roads and maintenance and construction, I've been doing it my whole life, that aspect is something that, I can definitely, provide a level of service there.
okay. That's it for now.
Okay, Selectman Dunn?
Sure, welcome back. As you probably know, I asked you a million questions, so, a lot of them I've already asked. So as far as the admin part of the job, you don't have a problem doing that? As far as the time cards, like the filling out paperwork, meeting with the men?
Yep. I do a lot of that now. We have Kronos for our payroll, which is
Okay.
computer-based. I did time cards in Beverly, which is your
Yep.
hand stamp.
Yep.
Time cards, taking care of it, allocating pay codes to whether they did snow or whether they worked on sewer or
Yep.
any of that stuff I've done in the past. It's rudimentary to me, so
Okay.
I have experience doing that.
Not a problem doing the administrative end of things?
Nope.
Okay, and that includes in like, any kind of a permit we might need for a state permit or whatever?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
experience
Okay.
doing that.
Stupid question, but I'm sure you're gonna say yes to it. Running projects, as in CPA projects, we have CPA projects that come up here in town now.
Complete streets and stuff like that.
Yep, and we might be doing a park, or we may be doing, like our past road commissioner did a, boat ramp.
Yep.
I mean, things like that, running them. I know we have a finance director that's,
Absolutely.
a lot of times gets stuck trying to run them.
Just to bring it close to home, when Boston Towing and Transportation did the port walk along Newburyport,
Yep,
We work with Boston Towing and Transportation, their Newbury's public ramp, we pave that.
Yep,
When I had my family business, Carroll Paving, so.
Yep.
I have dealings with small, medium, large projects.
okay.
We did a lot of work in, cohesion with bigger companies like Boston Towing and Transportation, so I have experience.
How much engineering do you think that this position would need? Now, when I mean that, to try and clarify it, so, like some projects, you'd send them out to an outside company that do the engineering, give you the plan, and you'd implement it. Do you think there is a need to have a engineering background for this position? If you can honestly answer that, I might be
So.
out of line by asking that
I
question.
would say to have knowledge of engineering and have, being able to read blueprints and road plans and stuff like that, complete streets, sidewalks, tip downs, grades.
Yep,
Those types of things, I definitely think are attributes you have to
Yep.
to, proficiently understand what's going on with grades,
Right.
curvatures of roads, sidewalks, stuff like that.
Okay.
It's all well within my wheelhouse. I've been
Okay.
doing it since I was a very young age.
All right.
So I'm not an engineer, but I've worked with engineers in the past,
Yep.
in Beverly and Portsmouth now, hand in hand with them, so.
what I was getting at is you already answered it. If we have a project going on and it could, you'd be involved, not a problem.
Absolutely.
Handling all that, okay.
Not a problem.
You said before, and you said again, you owned your own business. Do you feel like this position could kind of, what you've learned in your business as far as this position? I mean, stress, like we talked about last time. Could you elaborate on how you think you could, your experience from your own business, you could roll over into this position?
I was, kind of thrown to the wolves. I ran crews of, even at 21, 22 years old, I ran crews of much older people than me, experienced people than me. But I earned their respect quite readily and quite, quickly because I was hands-on. I was jumping right in the fire. If there was deadlines to meet, I would push my crew, but I'd be right next to them with a
Yep.
shovel or a pick or a piece of equipment, working
Right.
till all ends of the hour. So I
Right.
think that type of stuff, I don't
Okay.
have any
Okay.
issue doing it.
Um,
It'd be-
As I think Mike just alluded to, you're in a city job now, coming to a town job. You don't think you'll be bored with it? And like I said before, we're gonna be changing it to hopefully to a DPW, and would
Yep.
you want that challenge as well?
Absolutely, and honestly, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit. In the city aspects, everything is broken down so tightly, there's so many positions. In this role, there'd be a lot more hands-on and a lot more for me to do. It wouldn't be boring because we have a lot of work to go to get where you guys want to be if we want to be a DPW.
Yep.
We have a lot of segmentations to get through,
Right.
and it's painstaking the amount of work we have ahead of us. But I'm definitely would love to take on the challenge. That's why I'm here for my second time.
Right, that was my next question. Do you like challenges, and how do you do with them?
I most likely love challenges, and the reason why I do, because I always fulfill them. I always do my best, I always work my hardest. I can't say I've never failed, but it's very rarely that I do. Very
Okay.
rarely.
Is it important, do you think, to be on the site with the help for bonding experience, listening and understanding their needs?
Absolutely. When I first got into Portsmouth, one of the first things I took on was part of the Complete Streets project, the Gateway project in Portsmouth. We actually rented a sidewalk paver, I mentioned it before. I trained a few of the men on the paver, but at the same time, I was there day in and day out. Like I said, I was jumping on the paver, running it, making sure things were getting done, going back to the office, changing, and I was in event meetings and personnel meetings, at the same time, same day. So,
Okay. Just a
jump
couple
around.
more. As Mike asked you about the MS4 permit, if there was a permit or a process that you didn't understand, you'd be willing to go out and figure it out and,
The best thing about technology nowadays is whatever you don't know, it's sitting there on the internet, waiting for you to read it, waiting for you to find out about it. And I'm constantly learning. No one's ever gonna know anything. Even an engineer coming in here for this job,
right,
he's not gonna have the experience I have.
right.
But even with the schooling he has, he's still gonna need to look up, a lot of the processes that go on. They're inundated, especially with mass chapter law, as we all know.
Okay, and you have all your licenses, whatever you needed for this position, you have
Yep.
all that
I have a
stuff?
Class A license, I
Yep.
have my hydraulic hoisting license, 2A.
Okay. So if there was an emergency, say in town, which I'm sure you're in the position, but I know our past road commission has been, we've had blizzards and
Oh, yeah.
situations where trees have come across the road, and he's had to jump into a piece of equipment and go off. And I asked you this before, but, you know, just so Mike would hear it, you don't have a problem jumping in a truck, taking off, and doing what you need to do?
I was in a loader this morning loading salt is because I couldn't find a loader operator around.
Okay.
So not a problem. I have tons of experience running equipment. In my position now, I very rarely get to get into a piece of equipment, but
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to, and I do it
Right.
all the time.
Okay, I think that was it, thank you.
Can I get a follow-up to?
Sure, go ahead. I'm back.
You mind if he has a follow-up?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you live in Methuen.
Mhm.
Did you ever have an instance where you had to go to Portsmouth off hours or on a weekend or
All the
something?
time.
Okay.
All the time, yeah. We do shifts with snow, so we have an on-call week. There's 4 of us that kind of swap through it, but people go on vacation, and I'm always covering for people, so, yeah, in the middle of the night, ice, something happens, into work.
Yeah, that's
20
what I'm
minutes.
thinking, like a snowstorm.
Yeah,
or, you know,
absolutely.
making sure the roads are
Happened
plowed.
this weekend, it'll
Because
happen. yeah.
currently, the department does an outstanding job cleaning the road, making sure they're clear, the salt and everything.
Right.
And you can see the difference when you come to town or when you leave town, when you're going through Bradford or Haverhill, and the difference that our DPW does
Mhm.
versus some of the other areas. So I'm just thinking, like, if there's a major storm or an ice storm or there's
Oh, yeah.
outages or something, you know, you might
Takes
have
me
to.
15 minutes to get
Yeah,
there.
you might have to be here for that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Selectman Watson?
You touched on your knowledge of complete streets. You mentioned that a few times. Paperwork. What's your experience with budgeting? Filling out the budget and then following a budget?
Yep. Following a budget is something I've been accustomed to. As far as working to get my budget, I do a lot of the stuff, a lot of the planning for what streets will get paved, and I'll go out and measure and price out roads accordingly, whether we need, you know, complete street, or if they're just gonna do a grind and pave. I'll price that out accordingly, I'll get it together. I'm actually been working on it recently, to find out exactly how much, you know, money we're gonna be able to spend, make sure there's no encumbered money. And I'm also, you know, I work pretty tight with the engineers now to make sure that, you know, we don't have any encumbered money. That's our biggest problem now, is spending the money we have.
Either in Portsmouth or in Beverly, did you have a drain layers license?
Drain layers license, no.
No, okay.
In Portsmouth, we issue them.
I'm sorry, you,
In Portsmouth, we're in charge of issuing the drain layers license. In New Hampshire, it's different from Mass.
how about your experience with writing grants for Highway Department?
Writing grants, I have some experience with the Chapter 90 grant writing, limited, but I do have some experience. I know that you guys talked about using equipment and stuff like that, which is stuff we used for our snow tractors in Beverly, and snow fighting equipment. That was probably a few times that I've had some experience. That would be something I would have to learn a little bit more about, but it's definitely something I'm capable of.
No. Outside of the Chapter 90 grants, what are some of the others that you applied for? You mentioned that.
Just with handicap ramps, the Chapter 88 money and stuff like that.
Okay.
Nothing else, really, besides those two.
How about easements? When we did the Route 97 project there, we had to do easements. How familiar are you with the gathering the easements?
We had surveyors come out. I mean, I worked with the engineering department and a few of the surveyors, because we actually did, in Beverly, we took over, I think it was about 12 feet, and we put a sidewalk on the other side because there was a school on Corporation Way down there. So I mean, I have some experience. Like I said, we hired surveyors to survey the area. We, you know, actually ended up in a few of the properties, paying, you know, making it eminent domain. But it was something that we worked with other engineering firms to do, so.
You mentioned about hands-on. I think we got 3 full-time employees, plus the superintendent. And so maybe times that you want to get involved in that. So in Beverly and in Portsmouth, what are some of the hands-on work that you actually did? I mean, you were out there with the guys shoveling dirt, running a backhoe,
Yep.
things like that.
Yep, I have my operator's license. You know, we've dug out, in Beverly, we worked all year long. We would be rebuilding catch basins right now. We'd be you know, if there were emergency digs that we had to do for sewer, we'd be digging those. I mean, most of the times, we would have operators, but sometimes we'd have 2 or 3 jobs going at once. So, yeah, I'd be in there, you know, digging out the old clay pipe or the old, whatever, you know, drainage pipe needed to be replaced. Yep, I've done it. And running loaders during snowstorms. I've run pavers, I've run graders. I have experience in all of them.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Carroll, just a couple of questions.
Hey, Bill.
How big is the staff size in Portsmouth right now?
9 laborers, about 15.
And how big was the staff size in Beverly?
10 or 12. Usually split up between 2 of us, so it was anywhere from 6 or 8.
Now, as Selectman Watson just so eloquently put it, our staff is significantly smaller than that. So
Absolutely.
I anticipate there'll be a lot more need to be hands-on with the staff that's roughly a third of the size that you're working with now. Do you anticipate that being any kind of issue?
I actually look forward to it.
Look forward to it. Oh, good. Somebody a glutton for punishment. As far as some of the more specialized training licenses that might be needed, do you plan on continuing your education towards some of those certificates and licenses, or would you be willing to
Absolutely.
work toward
I
those?
would be willing to work towards whatever steps we need to bring Groveland where we want it to be, as you guys decide. As long as it doesn't interfere with my day-to-day activities and whatever, you know, needs to be done. Yeah, absolutely. I love education.
Great. How are you with working and coordinating with utilities, water, sewer, lights? I mean, you know what happens. You go out and pave a street, and 2 hours later, the water company or the electric company, somebody wants to come and throw a jackhammer on it and dig it up. What's your experience with working with these utilities in these towns and cities to coordinate, you know, their work efforts so they're not digging up
Right.
brand-new streets that you paved?
Coordination's pivotal. You have to have it. We have rules in place now that you can't open a street unless it's an emergency within 5 years. So you have to coordinate with all the utilities before we do any type of paving. You know, obviously the gas company's always first because they dig up every road anyways. So you have to get, you know, in with National Grid or Eversource or whoever your utility is. But yeah, communication is, you have to have it. It's absolutely pivotal. You're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars redoing a road, whether it's from the ground up or if you're just overlaying it, whatever it is. Any money spent, that little bit of extra effort goes a long way to preserving it.
Sure, sure. And it's so disheartening when you see a brand-new road just being torn up. Just let me to another question. As far as budgeting, your experience is you've never had to formulate the budget and own the budget. Is that my understanding?
I've worked with councilmen to find out what we can allocate, or where we can allocate funds for roads and infrastructure. I think with a Board of Selectmen, it would be a little more intimate as far as coming up with that budget. We'd work together. Whatever our goals and aspirations were, that's where we would adjust our funds. So I have, maybe it's not the best expertise, but I do have a pretty well-rounded knowledge of coming up with a budget and, you know, figuring out what we need to do and what areas it needs to be adjusted.
And to touch on Selectman Wood's point, this is a town, and despite everything else, I believe your biggest role will be customer service. Being the town, they're gonna, if you're hired, they'll get to know your first name, your last name, your middle name, your children's name, your father's name, your mother's name, in very short order.
Yeah.
And they're gonna want you to be their best friend. And a lot of this job is customer service. How do you handle a disgruntled taxpayer that's angry because their street didn't get plowed, or they've got a pothole that they've called about several times and they can't get fixed, and now they've blown out a tire and they're gonna have to buy a new rim, and they wanna keep you on the phone for a day and a half because their dog died too. It was an unfortunate day. It was just a bad day all around.
Bad week.
Yeah,
Bad week, bad month.
it was just bad, bad.
I deal with it now. I know the public, we have varying levels of, people's needs and wants. Each individual person in incident deserves a different action and a different response. I've been doing it for a long time. I know how to deal with those disgruntled people. Usually those disgruntled people end up being the people that email me and thank me at the end of the day. I don't always, sometimes people want to run and jump through hoops. It's not always the best action. Sometimes you can cool people's heads with just words and letting them know that you'll be there and it's going to be addressed. So the level of service has to be there. They're the taxpayers. They pay our jobs. They keep us, clothed and food, on our tables. So that level of service has to be there. I'm always, dealing with some issue here or there every day. So it's something that it's ongoing for me.
Great. And now to Selectman Dunn's point. This board, prior boards have made a habit of throwing everything in the kitchen sink toward the highway department. Sometimes with unrealistic expectations of levels of accomplishments, achievement, and timetables. And reason being is they've always said we can do it cheaper. And my feeling has always been, yes, but if it takes you 4 times as long to do it as anyone else, is it really cheaper? If this board, future boards, were to come to you with proposals or projects that you felt were just beyond the scope of the road department, highway department, whatever we want to call it at the time, would you be honest enough to tell the board, future boards, that that's beyond your scope, that we would be better off as a town to find a third party to take on that specific project, and as opposed to trying to be everybody's hero and do things that are just beyond what your resources and abilities would allow you to do in a reasonable amount of time for a reasonable cost?
So one thing as a leader and as someone in either my position now, you have to know your limitations. You have to know when to give and when to take. I think where our town is, where the town of Groveland is now and where I want to take it, we would probably be able to take on some of the bigger tasks somewhere down the road. But there's a cost effectiveness versus a level of service that you have to put out there. And if you can't meet both of those goals at the same time, that's when you have to pass it on to a bigger company, outsource that issue, outsource that problem, and let them take it on. But I also think that with my, knowledge and expertise, that we can also train people up. We can, if we're gonna get to that DPW status that we've talked about, that, we would probably hopefully bring on another hire or 2 hires in a year or so, if our budget allowed, which would allow us to give that much more level of service, and our capabilities would grow with it. So yes, there's absolutely, everybody has a limitation. You have to know it. As a leader and as a supervisor, I have, a pretty intimate knowledge of that, and I know, once I get to know where our capabilities are and how to gauge them, I'll know, when's enough and, when we can pass it on to a bigger corporation, a company that can take it on and do it.
So you have.
Cost effectiveness, obviously. but-
Right, so you have the self-discipline to check your ego at the door,
Correct.
as hopefully we all do.
Correct.
And bring a realistic expectation of the
Exactly.
goals and the mission at hand.
Yep.
I have no further questions. Yes, Selectman Watson? follow up?
You mentioned, when you were in Beverly, you mentioned about the gas company digging up every road that known to mankind.
Oh, yeah.
What's your experience with getting them back to fix their trenches? In my opinion, I think that all roads, whether they're collector roads or Class A roads, should be filled to Class A road standards.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you get the roads that sink in, and the gas company never comes back to fix their trenches. And you know that some of these, if you drive a road, not only in the town of Groveland.
They're impassable.
But, exactly. But even on these Class A roads, they're not filled to the proper standards. What's your experience with getting them back to do the
So
job
I'm
over again?
in Portsmouth, I'm actually in charge of the final pavement on all trenches. I'm part of the trench excavation permitting. It's follow-up. We have a 30-day, we have a 60-day, and we have a 1-year inspection, we have a 2-year inspection. If you don't have those classifications, and if you don't have someone in the field that's physically inspecting those trenches, then that's where you get dilapidated and the service goes down. Having someone on site to make sure that they fill the excavation properly to begin with. 12-inch lifts, using a compactor properly. It's all those things play into where there fails. After their first year, we make them mill out the margins a foot on the other side and repave it, whether it looks good or not. That's just part of the service that they have to provide if they pull an excavation permit.
Do you make them infrared, all those trenches?
They don't infrared, but we make them mill it a foot beyond the margin of the actual excavation and repave it. I don't care how good it looks, if it's perfect or not. We make them tack each edge, so they'll seal tack it, so no water infiltration for water gets in there, so it can't pop. It's follow-up, and it's level of service that you have to keep on them about.
Have you ever, I don't know how it works in some of the other communities, but have you ever, if the gas company didn't come back and repair their trenches, have you gone to the powers to be to, unless it's an emergency excavation work, if you stopped them from digging a new trench?
Yep.
You have.
Eversource.
And what's your experience with, I'm sure it wasn't too well received.
No, they came out and fixed the problem at hand, and then they got their permits.
I'll bet they did.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you'd be surprised
I'm
how
all
quick
set.
they move once they don't get a permit.
I'll bet they do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm all set.
I think I asked you this last time, but I'll ask it again. You don't have a problem if we go to DPW as far as cemetery, parks, highway, possibly town hall, if we said part of your job was making sure the town hall repairs, painting, whatever.
Yep.
Exterior, maybe we have an
Maintenance.
interior guy, but,
General building maintenance and stuff like
right.
that, yeah.
You don't have a problem pulling that
Nope.
under your belt?
Have experience.
And I asked you before, budgets, we talked about snow, we talked about believe. Do you think you're a good negotiator?
Yep.
When I say a negotiator, and I won't say it on camera, but some people are bullshitters. And a good negotiator is someone that.
You said you wouldn't say it on camera.
Whatever.
Okay.
People know who I am.
That's out there.
So what I'm saying is some people, as you said a minute ago, you have someone call you up on the phone and say, hey, we got a problem
Right.
on X amount street in Groveland. You don't just give them a bunch of BS and send them on their way. You know how to talk to them and get it taken care of.
Yeah, you have to. You have to show, you can't just talk the talk.
Right.
You have to walk the walk. You have to show them results.
Okay.
Or else they're gonna be calling me back, and then they're gonna see
Right.
Michael on the street and yell at him because his catch basin wasn't clean, and then he's gonna be at me, and then, that's not gonna solve any
Right.
problem. It's only gonna make more problems for me,
Right.
so.
And if you were, and I mean, the board will talk about this later, but if you were to get this position and you got into the position, say, for like 30 or 60 days, you got into the department, overlooked it, you would hopefully come back to us and say, hey, listen, guys, I've looked this thing over.
Yep.
I see what's going on down there. I need this, let's talk.
Yep, you would get that.
Okay.
I can almost guarantee you that.
Okay.
Yep,
All right,
I'm very open. When there's a problem, when there's an issue, when there's something I see that needs to be adjusted, or I think needs to be fixed, whether it's fixed today, tomorrow, or in 2 years, or in a month, or whatever it is, I'm
Right, but what
not
I'm-
one for short on words.
What I'm looking for is I'm looking for you to get an overlay of the department right now, and then come back and say, hey,
Yep.
this is what I think needs to be done. I'm the new guy, I think this, and this has to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Takes time.
I'm good.
All right, I apologize for that, I don't have a dump button, this is a G-rated program, so we'll try to...
I'm sorry, town people.
clean it up.
Most people know who I am.
Yeah, but the kids are still, you know...
Oh, they were listening to this high.
Week, school vacation, we may have a big audience today.
I'm gonna go home and pray.
At least it
I'll
wasn't,
light a candle for you. And-
I beat that out.
Oh, you did? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll bet you did.
I wouldn't be worried about the kids, I'd be worried about what your wife says.
She knows me, she's married to me.
Never mind, Pastor Chris. Mr. Carroll, is there any other follow-up questions?
No, I think I'm all right.
I want to thank you for your time, coming back and meeting with us again. I appreciate your efforts and obviously your deep desire for this position. It's certainly is
Just
communicated. Yes,
maybe we should ask him if he has any questions of the board.
certainly.
I don't really have any questions. I think those questions can be brought up later on, if need be, so I'm good for now. But thank you. Thank you for the offer.
Do you have Denise's contact information?
I do, yeah.
I know typically I'm the same way, but when 5 minutes after I walk away from the interview, I go, oh, jeez, I had 1,000 questions I could ask. So please, if you're like me,
Okay.
don't be shy. If you leave here 5 minutes later, reach out to Denise. She can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer any and all questions you may have to the best of our ability.
Excellent.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a good night.
You too. Drive safe. Get ready for that storm. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Doringer, right?
Yes,
Did I
sir.
pronounce that correct?
You did.
Okay, Mr. Keith Doringer.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time in meeting with us.
Thank you for having me here.
We've all, I believe, read over your resume and become a bit familiar with it. So you are a new candidate. So I'll begin the questioning, I think, to my right this time with Selectman Watson.
Can you give us your experience with budgeting and paperwork?
My experience with budget and paperwork has been primarily as a project manager for private engineering firms, where I've put together budgets for different projects, managing that with the DOT, most of the time Mass DOT, managing those budgets, submitting monthly invoices and stuff like that. So that's part of that. I've got about 5 years of experience, 5 to 7 years experience about doing that within the later part of my career here, so.
Any experience with grant writing?
I'm sorry?
Any experience with grant writing?
No, sir.
No, none. How about hands-on work, like with the highway department, assisting with snow plowing, backhoe work, handwork?
No, I don't have any experience professionally doing that kind of stuff, but certainly I do that stuff on my own, so I've always been kind of a handyman, jack of all, carpenter type of thing and stuff like that. I was kind of I worked as a maintenance engineer for Sears and Peabody at the North Shore Shopping Center, so when I was in college, so I always did things to fix the building, paint, shoveling, snow, whatever, that kind of stuff, so I do have a hands-on experience with that, but not professionally within my career as an engineer.
How about, we just had a Route 97 project done over the last few years, and some of that work required easements. Do you have any experience with easements?
Yes, I do. As a designer dealing with the DOT, we've done quite a few projects with the right-of-way section of Mass DOT to get either construction, permanent, temporary easements for the projects themselves, so.
How about any experience with the MUTCD guidelines?
Oh, God, yes, I know TCD. Yes, I've used, obviously, when it comes to construction, your Part 6, using all your construction stuff, but yes, I do know METC is probably very well, so signs, pavement markings, guide signs, construction signing, sign distances, those type of things.
How about with the regulations under the Architectural Review Board?
I have done a couple of projects where AAB has come into play in terms of sidewalk construction and stuff like that, where we need to have pedestrian accessibility, and we need to follow the latest Mass DOT standards for pedestrian ramps, sidewalks, those type of things, as well as pavement markings for crosswalks and stuff like that.
How's your work with Chapter 90?
I haven't got any experience, I won't lie to you, I haven't got any experience with Chapter 90. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't had any experience with it.
How about the Complete Streets project?
Mass DOT's Complete Streets, that's part of the projects that we've been working on. When I was working on at Parsons, we had sidewalks, so the Complete Streets, I also worked on a project that's now under construction down in Raynham right now, which actually is a great example of a complete street job, where we've got, bike lanes both sides, the pavement markings, the striping, signals, signing, push buttons, all those type of things as a result of, the what they call the green dot and what do they call that, as.
Any experience as an engineer with work with laying out bike trails?
Bike trails, no bike trail experience, no, not really, but just the on-roadway major routes, Mass DOT designated routes, so, but no off-route trails.
Okay. I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Selectman Dunn.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I got some questions. I'm the one that puts the whole list out there.
All right.
Why do you want this job?
I'm at a point in my career where, I've done the design. I have a pretty good knowledge base, 25 years of design, and honestly, I like to get more involved with people on a regular basis than I do doing the design and stuff like that, dealing with the DOT. I'm more of a small-town kind of person. I worked in the city for quite a few years, so this is up my alley in terms of being able to have the hands-on, dealing with people on a regular basis, getting to know people in the town. It's a small town here, and getting to know people on a first-name basis. I think that fits my personality more so than doing what I was doing.
Okay. The municipal administration end of the job for this position, the DPW, and do you think you can handle that as far as the billing with the time cards and
Oh, yes.
all that? Okay.
Yep.
Your skills with equipment, as far as purchasing the equipment, pricing out equipment, and I'm talking dump trucks to hand tools to whatever. Have you have a lot of experience with that?
No, I haven't had any experience with that, but certainly when it comes to doing anything of that nature, I don't know how the town works, but I'm always a get 3 quotes purchase, prior to doing anything of that nature to see how things go. And obviously, I don't know if you have contracts with certain suppliers, but certainly, obviously I would like to get the most for the best for the least amount of money, so.
Okay. Are you a good communicator?
I do believe I am. I've had people work for me over 25 years, and certainly, I think that getting to know people on a regular basis, kind of like what I just explained, I think that allows you to get to know people kind of on a personal level, because we are all people, and it's good to have people that like you, and you can communicate well with them, and vice versa, in terms of being able to work with these people on a regular basis.
Okay. How do you handle stress?
I don't handle stress. Well, I'm not a drinker. I'm not a smoker. I'm not really a gambler. I think I kind of handle it with laughter. I like laughter, so I will make light of some things or something like that, or wait till I get home and watch my comedy shows, but that's how I get rid of my stress. I don't have high blood pressure, all things considered, patience is the key when it comes to stressful situations. You always have to take a step back and look at things before you can proceed, because sometimes things can get blown out of proportion, and you certainly don't want to move forward in a hot-headed type of situation, so patience is the key.
Okay. We're hoping to take this department to a DPW. Part of that would be our park, cemetery, maybe building maintenance. Would you have hands-on and understand that part of the?
I would, especially the building maintenance as I described earlier. I've certainly had the experience of doing that and, doing everything from, I think, just short of washing windows, and probably would even do that, but I am familiar with maintenance and upkeep of buildings.
Okay. Do you complete projects on time and on budget?
I do, and sometimes earlier than that if possible, so.
Do you believe in new or repair? And if we had a piece of equipment, the third part, would you try to, if the piece of equipment's good, run it to the, say it's a 30-year piece of equipment, get to the 30 years? Or are you into like half its life, get rid of it type thing?
Well, it depends upon what the resale value of the equipment might be if you were to get rid of it in favor of something new. I mean, obviously, if you've got a 30-year life for your equipment, you'd want to run it through and certainly get what you paid for it. If it comes to the point where you're paying more, outlaying more cash as a result of trying to take care of it, then I think that's, I would imagine that's not going to be something that's going to happen in probably the first 15, 20 years of the vehicle or the equipment. So after a while, obviously you want to pay for it and utilize it while you can. So the first thing to do would be to repair it and keep it up as best as possible in the meantime.
Okay. Do you plan on being hands-on?
I do plan on being hands-on.
Okay.
I'd much prefer to be hands-on than just sitting in an office.
Do you have a CDL and a hydraulics license?
I do not have either, but I am willing to get both if necessary.
Okay, so in our town, as you know, we're a small town, and a lot of times we'll get maybe emergency situations where we have a blizzard or a storm come through or whatever.
Right.
Our past department head has been able to jump in a loader, go out, move a tree, work
Yep.
with the guys, because we don't have a lot of guys. We only have like 4 guys, I
Four guys,
believe.
yep.
So that was my question for that.
No, I would definitely be hands-on and get the CDL so that I could participate in doing that as well.
All right, I just went over that. I think that's it. So one of my questions, I was reading your paperwork, and I noticed that you had a lot of, like, different jobs, but I guess you're a, what do you call it?
Consultant?
Consultant.
Yes, sir.
So that's why, you're there for a couple of years and you move on type thing?
I
finish
did
up
work
the-
at Jacobs for almost 10 and a half years in Boston. The
So
grind, the commute in Boston, the grind of the commute in Boston can be, was definitely wearing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, they put you on a project, maybe, so it's a bridge job or something, you might be there for a year, or whenever that bridge is built, or that project's completed, that's more or
I've seen quite a few projects from design through the completion of construction, and stuff like that. So it's fun to see something they designed being completed. I actually worked on the artery as well, so,
Okay, that was my last question, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Selectman Wood,
Is there anything left to ask?
that's what I was,
Bill had a lot of questions.
he's good for that,
He
though.
is. He
You
should
know,
have
all I get to do is write down the
I
answers.
feel so inadequate right now. As he alluded to, as Bill alluded to, that we're looking to take this to a DPW type of facility. What about working with water and sewer and that being under that overhead?
I don't have any experience other than my design experience, but certainly I would think that would work out best to keep that all as one department, yes.
Okay, and going through your resume, civil engineer, a lot of experience with street projects, street designs, drainage, traffic improvements, supervisor experience, which
Yep.
is good. Knowledgeable in regards to state reports and requirements. But as you said, you don't really have any municipal experience.
No, I do not,
And
so-
working hands-on in that aspect.
Correct.
Okay. How do
This
you
is my
think
first foray into it, and I'm hoping that that's what happens, so.
the learning curve?
Yes.
Yeah,
There is going to be a learning curve no matter what you do and where you go, so.
right. And you're okay with kind of coming in and having that steep learning curve and
Absolutely.
trying to actually probably juggle several different aspects along with learning the position and learning the municipal part of it, but then also doing the budgeting, the people, the interactions with the other departments in town, the interactions with the residents in town, while still trying to juggle on that learning curve of that
Seems to be
department.
what I've been doing for the past 10 years of my career anyway, is juggling all those things on top of that, so yes.
Okay. And one of the things that works really well in this town, as I alluded to earlier, was snow removal.
Yes, sir.
And plowing and keeping the roads clear no matter what's going on.
Right.
It's really remarkable at how well they do that job.
Okay.
Would you rely on the experience of the guys who have been doing that for a while, or would you try to break in new kind of aspects of that, or do you think that what they've been doing that isn't broken, don't fix it?
Well, kind of like that. If the town is currently happy with the way things are going, yes, I want to learn from the people doing the snowplow removal right now to kind of keep things going that way. And certainly, if I did see some way to improve things, certainly I would probably, come up with some suggestions. But certainly, I wouldn't want to come in and rock the boat, change things when things are moving smoothly right now. So, not being familiar with it, it'd be my job to watch and learn.
Okay. And just one other thing that I noticed, which maybe I'm old, I guess, but I was reading through your resume,
Yes, sir.
and I was just skimming through, kind of looking at, some of the job titles and what you've been doing, and just kind of looking through it. And then I get down to your education, I see you have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering.
Yes.
And then you have listed Master of Business Administration from Salem State, I went there too, but did not complete degree.
No, I did not.
How much did you complete?
Work, it's tough to, well, as you know, going to Salem.
Oh,
it's not
Salem's
easy
miserable
to-
going there
It's
now.
not easy to get into Salem, and certainly coming from Boston,
Right.
getting to Salem is
One road in,
horrendous.
one road out.
It's horrendous.
Right.
Have to leave at least 2 hours to get out of Boston to get to the classes. It wasn't always possible, so I did the best I could, and after a while, I finally just said the heck with it. So they didn't have a lot of online coursework, which would have suited my my opportunity better to do that, because it just, working in Boston and, getting to Salem is horrendous.
Do you think that you would pursue completing that? Not
I
just at
have-
Salem, but anywhere, I mean, any
No,
online course or
I
something like
agree.
that? Is that in your,
The last time I checked, Salem still doesn't have a lot of online coursework for an MBA. So yes, I would probably consider pursuing that to have that management degree as well. But, sometimes, the experience of doing the job probably is better than the classwork itself. But if it was important for the town, I would get it.
okay, that's it for now.
Great. Most of my questions have been answered by these very well prepared colleagues of mine. One question I have, and maybe it's more of a concern, and see how you feel. A lot of the folks, the crew you're going to be supervising, I guess the best way to put it is they've been out in the trenches for a while.
Right.
Your resume indicates more of a
Office type.
higher echelon kind of general who kind of supervises from afar. How do you think you're going to fit in with the ground troops now after this?
Well, I wouldn't say
kinda-
that I wouldn't say, based on what you said, that I supervise from afar. Certainly the people, I supervised 4 to 5 people, a couple in Connecticut and 3 in Boston, and they were directly in my view and interacting with those people all the time. So, in terms of interacting with them on a regular basis, I don't have an issue with that, and I think I'm very good at doing that, so.
Yeah, and I would say in your field, the folks that would be working for you, you would be seen as a mentor. You would be seen as someone that has knowledge that they would desire, someone that has experience that they would be looking for. In this case, a lot of the crew may have more real-world experience than you do at first.
Absolutely.
How would you overcome that and gain the, not only the trust, but the loyalty and the acceptance of the crew?
Right. I think that, obviously, they have that experience, and it's my place to learn, and certainly, in a sincere way, the knowledge that they have, so I can assist in that, and certainly learn if they've got concerns or issues as well, to help them solve those issues, whatever they might be. But I don't see it as an issue trying to overcome, that skill set. It's certainly me, in this case, learning from them so that I can better help them going forward when we run into, the mundane, the everyday type of thing isn't gonna be the issue. It's the stuff that's gonna pop up that's gonna be a little bit different, where they're gonna say, hey, we gotta do this, what do you think? And I'm gonna say, well, this is where I'm gonna have to rely on their experience, and certainly as time goes on, as I've learned what they, and how they do things, to formulate my own opinion and help them as best as I can, so. I don't have an issue learning from them, as I hope that they would probably learn from me at some point if they wanted to, so.
Right. Go ahead.
Unless you're.
No.
All right. One thing I did want to ask that came up was, this position tends to be customer-facing a lot.
Yes.
People will reach out to us with concerns, and we would in turn come back to you and say, several residents on King Street are asking about XYZ. Can you take a look at that at your next earliest convenience? So it's customer service, it's customer-facing. What do you think about that?
I like it. I'd rather, have it that way than not. Certainly to deal with the people, like I said earlier, on a regular basis, if they've got concerns, I want to know what it is. Talk to the people as well. I don't know if that's something that, this position wants me to do, is actually talk to that particular person that has that concern. But if that is the case, I certainly would want to hear from them and find out what we could do as a group that would be better, so.
Yeah, I would think people aren't shy in Groveland.
Okay.
So they'll come and say, hey, we have an issue on this XYZ.
Certainly.
And generally, if that doesn't get action in a reasonable amount of
Thank
time, then they'll call one of us and say, hey, I reached out to this person about this concern, didn't hear anything back. Is there anything you can do to kind of take it up a notch and escalate it up?
No, I'd rather be proactive than reactive, so I definitely would rather, it wouldn't get to the point where they would have to call you again. I would certainly want to touch base with them as soon as possible.
No problem. What kind of experience do you have running large equipment, repair and maintenance of such things?
I do not. I don't have any experience running large equipment. I certainly have no maintenance experience in that respect. So certainly the four gentlemen that would be working under me, I would have to rely on their experience. And I hear you have one gentleman that's very good at doing that, so. But, I'm obviously, I believe, a hands-on person, and I can learn some things if necessary, so. And certainly get out there as well and move some equipment around, so.
Now, during the winter and snow plowing season, I believe would be this person's responsibility to coordinate the contractors who we hire to assist in plowing the roads.
Mostly that's the foreman.
Mostly that's the foreman, so it's below this.
The foreman's the one now called when the crew needs to go out. The superintendent hires the contractors initially, but then it's normally the foreman decides who needs to come out and when.
But in the past, in the beginning, when I used to work there, Bob would be the one that would,
I would think
So
so.
must-
But,
changed.
right, but over the years, it's sort of, Bob would just call Billy, and then Billy would call the guy, so it's
Okay.
just sort of, the police go right to Billy when,
okay.
like yesterday during the storm, they called him and really interacted with him mostly.
Okay. God forbid poor Billy gets hit by a truck tomorrow. Who's Billy's backup?
Well, it's always the superintendent would be primary, but if he assigns that as a task to the foreman, then he would be backup.
So this role may have to reassume that position and kind of share it just in case. Do you have a lot of experience in working with a large number of contractors at one time that,
I have some experience working with contractors, half dozen or so. Nothing, not a whole slew at the same time, but certainly that can be done.
terrific. Yeah, and to Selectman Wood's point, which I was gonna make, this is really a customer service-driven role. I don't know how else to put it. I think that's going to be
It's FaceTime.
probably 75% of your job description is dealing with customer service complaints.
Right.
Service requests, things like that. And the ability to satisfy those people's needs or at least give them good enough answers that they can be satisfied
Right.
with that until actual things can be
I'm
done.
sure they're going to want their concerns listened to and heard and see some movement on it, so at the very least, that's about all you can, that's a good start.
Absolutely. What kind of experience do you have working with utility companies? Gas, water, sewer?
I've dealt with them on some of our projects where we've had interaction with National Grid and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say that it's extensive.
Okay, great. I have no more questions. Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
No, I'm all set.
Mr. Doringer, I thank you for coming.
Thank
and,
you all for having me.
Sharing your experiences with us. And
I appreciate it.
applying and interviewing for the job. We certainly do appreciate it. We are currently looking to fill this role. We have not made a decision. You're one of two candidates we're looking at tonight.
Okay.
But someone will be following up with you one way or another.
Okay.
And I appreciate and thank you
And
for
thank you.
coming.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay. Any discussion on the candidates? I imagine there's quite a bit. So, who would like to begin that discussion?
Well, I'll do it, I don't care.
I can, whatever.
Yeah,
I say
you.
too much, let someone else say something a little bit first.
No, you don't say too much, Bill.
Good.
That's all right, go. No, what Mike said, he'd go.
Okay.
I liked the first candidate better. I thought he had a strong kind of presence to him. I felt like he had an idea of what his pros and even some of his cons are, what his idea is for the role, his experience, and I think that he presented himself with a little bit more knowledge on the ins and outs and being more flexible with the equipment, the people, the role, the municipality, the budgeting, the grants, all that stuff.
I wish we could put them both in a Play-Doh mold and squeeze them out into one, because it seems that the combination of these two is really the ideal candidate for us. It's just too bad we can't get it all in one body.
Nope. But I think of the two, I like Mr. Carroll. That's it for now.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, so the candidate number one, I believe he wants the job. I believe he wants the challenge of the job. I think he expressed himself very well that way. I think he'll work with the guys. I think he'll be hands-on with the guys. I think he has the licenses. I think the first day in, he'll have everything he needs to get started, other than to learn the department. And it will also give us one more guy on the department, how I feel. Candidate number two, I feel that he is looking for this job as a job change, but not really eager for the money that we've advertised the job for. I don't think candidate number two even remotely comes to that dollar amount. He had, when he made a comment, watch and learn. I don't think our other guys on the department are gonna wanna watch someone making more money than them watch and learn, but that's just my opinion. Looking for this job as a change, but not really like, he didn't really give any real specifics why, what change it was gonna be. Let me see here. He was very vague in his answers, didn't really add anything on what he's doing now as a job, or any kind of a backup on what he's done in the past. He kind of answered our answers, but he didn't really sell himself or even give me a good inkling what he's doing now. So I definitely agree with Mike. I think candidate one, like I said last time, I think candidate one is the candidate.
When we interviewed the first candidate, the last time, there was three of them, I thought he was the better of the three. And when he had him back this time, I thought he did a better job. He had better answers. He's certainly very confident that he can do the job, very confident in his answers, maybe a little overconfident. But of the two, to me, the only thing the other guy had was that he was a civil engineer. I thought that was the only positive thing. But of the two, I think the first one was the better candidate.
Kind of your opinion of the two. One candidate clearly stands out above the rest. Candidate two, I love his education, his experience, but I worry about his street cred. When he gets out there and everybody else knows how to fix a diesel engine and he has to watch, much to Selectman Dunn's point, that's going to be a source of irritation. And that's gonna be like poking a sleeping bear, which I don't think is really the best way to approach this. Candidate one, obviously, when compared against candidate two, comes out as a superior candidate. But only as opposed to candidate two. Again, I go back to the first one, and I agree with Selectman Watson. Candidate one this time around seemed much more poised, seemed much more relaxed, seemed much more forthcoming, knowledgeable, and I think a lot of it has to do with he was much more relaxed, it seemed to me, this time around than it was the last time. So I guess I have to agree that candidate one is the better of the two, but you know, am I saying that a Yugo is better than, you know? Yes, please make a point.
Much as the discussions that we've had with other departments and other personnel, and it comes down to who do you think you're gonna be able to work with, right? And you want someone who both has some knowledge and some skill and some experience, but also someone who is going to be able to work with this board, work with other departments, work with the town residents, and not kind of just put up their hands, which, you know, if this is an appointed position, just put up their hands and say, I'm not doing that, right? So I think my feeling from the first candidate is, he's professional, he understands what the role is, he has the experience, and I think that he would be working well with this board and other departments to get whatever needs to get done.
Yeah, my biggest problem with candidate one, I'll be honest with all of you, is the lack of budgeting experience. Given the size of the town, cities he's worked in, money may not be as much of an issue as it's going to be here.
He's gonna have a budget, he's gonna have to work within, and he's gonna have to learn to adjust to that budget.
Well, there is the key. I don't believe he's ever put together a departmental budget from $1 all the way through. I think the city councils and the mayors have given him the budget and say, you work within it, which
agree.
is something much different than formulating your own, trying to envision how many hours you're gonna need, what projects you're gonna take on, how much those are gonna cost, what your labor's gonna run for the year, or what your machinery equipment's gonna run for the year, what your maintenance costs are gonna run for the year, putting that all together into one piece of paper and saying, my budget's gonna be X, and then living to that.
Right, but I think he has a budget that he can go to now and could tweak it. I think Denise had her hand up, so I'll be quiet for a minute.
So if I just may comment on that, whomever is hired, whenever, the budget for fiscal '20 has already been submitted. It will be too late to make changes for this upcoming year. So whoever's getting that role will really have a year to figure out
What
how
they're
the
doing.
department works, what the
Right.
resources are, and actually work into that budgeting process.
Right.
They would have to live within the budget that is set by town meeting. But as far as the actual composing of the budget, they would have about a year to figure that out.
Right, so for the first year, they'd have to live with a budget they had no input on.
Correct.
But
But that's not out of the ordinary.
Well, you could say the same thing where he works now. If he didn't write out the budget, he's got to follow the budget that was set out for him.
I think it's gonna take him time to get in there, know the equipment, know the personnel, know the department. He's not gonna be able to go in there and start calling shots right away. It's gonna be a learning curve for 6 months, I think, anyway.
I would hope
You
not.
know what I mean?
That would frighten me,
No, but I,
because then it would say that, no, the person hasn't really taken time to get to know the patient before he starts cutting into the,
right, as I said last time when he was here before us, and I'm not, I own my own business, I've had people at my desk, I've talked to people. I am very, very confident from talking to this man and the things he said, I have 100% confident that he can run that department, he can do a budget, and I think he'll be fine. I think he's eager, I think he's young enough, I think he has enough experience, and I think he'll work well with the guys we have. I do, and I think he'll work well with the town people. I think he is going to want him, he, to me, is the type of guy that wants to be able to say, I got it to the DPW. I just, my opinion, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I do. I have a good feeling that this guy will be fine. I wouldn't say it, I would not say it to the elected people that put me here if I didn't think,
Well, he also, if you listen to what he had said, he also has experience on the sewer side,
right.
which would be, when you go to a public works department, they may be involved. It sounds to me like is he the perfect candidate, the best one we've seen so far, I think.
Mike?
Yes. Is that department, is that budget, or is there any programs that's run on over there where everything's in a spreadsheet and they can kind of manipulate it that way, or is it all done on paper?
Probably neither.
What?
I don't think it's done on paper. I think most of it is, if you look at the budget, it's, road maintenance. They pretty much have a number of what road maintenance. There's machinery expenses. They pretty much have a number. The budget has stayed fairly static for many years.
Except for the snow
It comes
removal
down,
piece of it then.
right, and snow removal, it's pretty much whatever we have funds to give them.
Right.
The hardest part is really the salaries, and with that, he has a spreadsheet of the steps and the union contract to figure out where they would be with salaries and overtime. Most of the department, it's fairly standard from year to year with what, now, that being said, could they have additional resources and additional funds? Absolutely, but they've stayed pretty much at a minimum of what they need to get by.
But as
I
far as,
think-
oops, sorry, Matt.
I think with some of the things that he talked about with scheduling and communicating with applications on his phone and that kind of thing, I think that would be the guy to bring that to a computer version of being able to use the budget and then manipulate it and be able to see things that you probably wouldn't see just from a normal piece of paper type scenario.
Right.
But the buck is gonna stop with the finance director as far as finances, or the finance board, and the buck is gonna stop with us, because we're the governing body. So I think there's enough checks and balances where someone just can't go in and go crazy. We have enough checks and balances built in. And it's no different than, we just hired, a few years ago, we hired a, which I'm sure he had some experience, we hired a police chief. He had a budget that was put before the old chief, and he had to adapt to the old chief's budget, and then he went on the next year and he did his own thing. So I think it's gonna be the same thing.
Right. We've also had people in here that have a budget and they come in here and fight with us every minute about, they don't have enough money and they need more money and they want more
Right.
this and that. So,
That's our checks and balances, that we, you know what I mean? We might have to sit here and have that argument, but,
I don't want to have that argument with anybody. The budget is what it is, and if we could give them more, we would.
right.
We'd give everybody more if we could.
Well, I'm gonna go on the limb, and I'm gonna make a motion that we hire candidate number one for
Wait a
the,
second.
May I just correct your
Oh,
motion
sorry.
slightly? That your motion should be that you're extending an offer to
Oh,
whichever
an
candidate.
offer, sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
I'm gonna extend the offer to candidate number one,
Rennie Carroll.
Rennie Carroll, for the position that was advertised for the superintendent of the highway.
So I would say that that motion, if it's allowed by you, Bill, would be contingent upon successful negotiations with
It will be
said
contingent
candidate.
upon successful negotiations and Corey checks and everything else.
Second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I would,
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Keep talking.
yeah, if we can just, I'm sure we're gonna sit down and negotiate with him if he takes the job. I would like to have him, after he gets into the department, come back before us and talk to us at what he's found and what
The
he
initial
thinks.
kind of 1 month overview.
Right, a
of what you're
1 month
looking
type
at.
thing, just to make me feel good that he's got in there and got a good eye on it. And we can do that through his negotiation when the negotiation comes.
Yeah, well, as the Board of Selectmen and the appointing authority, you
Right.
could request at any time
Right,
they
okay,
come before you.
all right.
And I would recommend, so, two things, the position would be subject to an annual appointment, and all new hires, we don't normally deal with it, we don't have a lot of turnover with department heads, but there is a probationary period, so you certainly could set goals when you meet with said candidate, if you wanted to then meet at the end of the probationary period, that's an option as well.
That's 90 days, correct?
No, currently it's 6 months in the existing 3 months, no, it's 6 months in the existing policy. It's 90 days in the proposed policy,
6 months.
yes,
See that, I've got to see these, that's all.
yes.
Well, there's a motion and a second. There is no further discussion. All those in favor?
Yep.
All those opposed? All those not decided? No, I'm not voting against him, anyone, just not thrilled either. Kind of like that girl you took out in one date, but weren't really sure about the next one.
Well, I think you will be. I think Bill's right. I think he's a good fit.
Right, let's all pray that he's right. That's
So-
what we need.
I will reach out to him. I will also send the board an email to get your availability to either have a meeting before your next meeting or an off-night meeting to meet with him. If at all possible, before March 7th, so that I could participate in that, and we could have,
That's the next 2 weeks.
yes, so that we could then have a timeline.
I believe we could. Is it possible that he could go through all the background checks and all the other checks prior to that meeting?
Oh, absolutely,
And this way, if
Yep.
things don't come out, then renders the meeting moot.
yes.
I think we can do that.
I'll make it happen.
Ed, you
Yeah.
good that?
Okay, so I'll send an email out to you guys and figure out what the schedule is. I don't know if you want to meet next Monday, if Monday nights, or if you want to try and do it before your March 4th meeting, whatever is best, but I can send that out. We can do that on email.
Yeah, after Thursday, I just don't know my schedule, so send out,
Okay.
maybe give me a couple of dates.
Sure.
If you guys don't mind, this way I can
Yep.
make sure I can be present and
Sure.
not have to miss anything. So moving right along, we have discussion and possible vote, and the first item on the agenda is the Pentucket Regional School District Regional Agreement proposed changes.
So if I may, this was on your agenda last meeting, and we tabled it pending West Newbury's review of the language that they proposed.
Right.
So they are comfortable with the language, and the superintendent asked that I put it before this board, and Merrimack is putting it before their board, to see if everyone is in favor of the same language. So, a couple changes that are being proposed, I'll just quickly go through it. Page 1, it's just the date. Page 2, they are identifying what an emergency situation is and who, so in an emergency, we refer to the contingency plan as approved by the school committee. Currently, there's no language as to what happens in an emergency. This would just identify, there has to be an approved contingency plan. The next page, again, discusses an emergency. The finance directors and the town manager in West Newbury were concerned that there should be a timeline on that. It shouldn't just be in perpetuity. So we agreed that it would be not more than 1 year. That gives all 3 towns time to convene a special town meeting if necessary, to redo the regional agreement, depending on what the emergency is and what situation we need to move to. For instance, if the school vote does not pass and there's a catastrophic failure at the high school, what happens to those students and how long? So if it's something that major, it may have to be a long-term emergency plan, which would require us to call a special town meeting and open up the regional agreement and actually change the configuration of the other schools. So that just allows 1 year to do that.
Or until all towns have convened a special meeting.
Yes.
I looked at this and wonder if it should be, of the lesser of the two, to compel whichever's quicker to happen.
It could, but we found that, sometimes things like that, having a special town meeting in the middle of the winter, There's some backlash. It's not the best opportunity to call a special town meeting, depending on when an emergency were to happen. It could be that it's right before town meeting and it's not time to be posted, so instead of having 2 town meetings back-to-back, you schedule one for the fall to see how it plays out. I mean, we did discuss different scenarios, that sometimes it's better to give it a little while to see if it's actually working out, the emergency plan, and see if that's something the school wants to put forward. If we put something in place for a few months and they realize it's really not going as planned, they have to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. So we just felt a year really gives the school some time to make sure it's the right approach, and then it gives the town time to react to that approach and act on it.
Yeah, I just think the contingency plan is for a catastrophic event. And I just looked at that and said, well, why wouldn't we make it the lesser of the two? So I mean, whether we have a special town meeting a week before a catastrophic event happens, why would you want to wait a year to discuss such an event?
Right, well, it does say whichever comes first, so it doesn't say the lesser of the two, it's whichever comes first. So if we're able to convene a special town meeting in 3 months or 6 months, and then that's appropriate for the school, then we would do that. However you want to proceed, I mean, we can certainly propose language if you want to look at that. The next page, there's no changes, no changes on page 5. Page 6, we removed the language referring to the Regional Finance Advisory Committee. It's actually pretty much phased out over the years. We meet pretty regularly as the finance team with the school. We're pretty much in constant communication with either the school business manager or the superintendent, and it was difficult to get selectmen and finance directors together another night during the budget season to have the same conversations that we're having anyways. So that specific committee has been removed from the agreement, and it's rewritten in different language later on who the representative would be. So that would be under page 9. It just puts it under there. Instead of making it a formal committee, the chief financial officer of each town, the business manager, and the superintendent would have to review this agreement and make recommendations from time to time. And then the language that West Newbury had asked for was that each town's chief financial officer shall participate on behalf of their respective boards of selectmen and shall be responsible to keep their board apprised of communications and related meetings, and to provide their respective board regular opportunities to initiate any potential amendments to this agreement or respond to any amendments as may be initiated by others. So that was the newly
Crafted
crafted language,
language.
to make sure that the board is comfortable that they will get proper communications. And then the last page, they just added a signature line for the chairs of the board and the date so that we know when it was actually approved. So,
They have trust issues over there?
no comments.
I won't either.
So, the selectmen are actually not the approvers of this. It still comes down to the Regional Finance Committee or the chief financial officers. So, as long as you all have no other comments or want to make any suggestions, then I can move forward and tell them that, we would support moving this to town meeting. Obviously, town meeting has a right to speak on it, as does the board at town meeting. So, I just thought I would bring it to you and see what you guys thought about it.
I had one issue, and that was all I saw in the language that's being changed. I have no objection to any of the rest of it. Does anyone else have any comments, objections, concerns, questions,
I don't have any objections.
comments, concerns?
No,
Selectman
I think it's pretty well handled.
Selectman Watson?
No, I'm all set with it.
Selectman Wood?
No, I get it.
Then would someone like to make a motion to accept the proposed changes to the Pentucket Regional School District Regional Agreement?
And if I may,
You
if the
may.
motion could be to place it on the town meeting warrant, because that's really what you're approving, placement of this article on the warrant.
Okay.
So motion to approve Pentucket Regional School District Regional Agreement proposal changes and place on the next town meeting warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor? Terrific. I like when we're all in agreement. Makes the vote roll just so good. So, review and discussion of the draft personnel policy. So I know we got this a couple of weeks ago. I asked everybody if they would read it for this meeting and giving us plenty of time to go over it. It is quite a lengthy document. I understand that. I did get through it myself, but what I would like to suggest, so that it's not so onerous a task for us, is that initially at this meeting, we take a 50-foot level approach to the entire document. What you liked, what you didn't like, very high-level discussion. And then in subsequent discussions, we take smaller sections at a time and invite the employees to participate in the discussion of those sections. If they have any comments, any concerns about a particular section, so that they can be heard, their voices can be heard, we can understand what their concerns would be. We can try to mitigate those concerns or react to them or adjust the policy based on how relevant and realistic those concerns are and what we can realistically do about them. In this way, we give the employees some input, and we handle it basically in smaller bites as of trying to take on a 54-page document in one night, in one sitting. That would be my suggestion if the rest of the board is in agreement with that suggestion. I think it would make it a lot easier, and then it would also be more inclusive of the rest of the.
Have the employees got this yet?
I don't know.
I would think.
I know some
Agreeing
employees
with what you're
have.
saying, I think at this point in time, it would only be fair to let them look at it, let them compile some of their questions, and send them back this way. I mean, I know I went through it and what have you, but I mean, I think you're gonna hear that if we start making decisions and we haven't got the input from there, they're gonna say they've been left out of the input.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave anybody out of the buying the groceries or cooking
Right.
the meal. That's not the intent.
I personally
We definitely
think-
want to include them in the
Right.
conversation.
I personally think it was done fairly. I don't think there was any major changes. Some of the time off and the changing of how long the time off and what have you is, I mean, that's gonna affect them more, that's gonna, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's where they're gonna have more say on it than we are. I mean, we can ultimately say we can't afford it or whatever, but I mean, I definitely think it pertains to them. I think they really should have a say in it before we even start having the conversation. That's my opinion of it.
Well, again, we have a 50,000-foot conversation, like you said. It seems to be well presented, well ordered. My only comment at the 50,000-foot level is some of the paragraphs are indented, some are not. If we can get some uniformity to that over the overall document, that would make it easier to read, I think.
Yeah, page 22 to 23.
Yeah, but my suggestion, Bill, would be, say, to take appointments, terms of employment, that section, next meeting, and say to the employees of the town, we're going to discuss sections 6A through H, J, K, through J, and invite the employees to come in with their comments on that particular section only, so that we take smaller bites and we're not inundated with comments that basically go from page 2 to page 52, we're back to page 4, back to page 48. We take it in section by section by section. As we get their input, we put that together with our input, we ratify a section, we move on. We get to the next section, we do the same thing. Section 7, employees come in, any comments, any concerns, we ratify that section, we move on. When we get to the entire document, then Denise made a very, very good suggestion. I think it's valid. We bring in the department heads at that point, and say, these are some significant changes to what you've been doing in the past few years. How will this impact your ability to run your departments? Is this going to be cumbersome for you? What's your input? And then at that point, we basically have everybody that cares to give us their feedback, we have. At that point, we can ratify the entire document, send it to town meeting with our blessing, and hopefully have it ratified.
Town meeting does not vote on this.
We don't. So just us.
But Bill, I'm not sure you're gonna get a town employee to come sit here in front of us. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna feel, I think we'd be able, if they could throw it on a piece of paper and send it over to us or something, and we can go through, read it that night. If you say section 1 through J, and we have the
You
pieces
gotta
of
put
paper,
some
we
skin in
read
the
them.
game. You gotta-
Anonymously,
What?
Can't
Bill.
be anonymous with this stuff.
anonymously. They don't need
What do you
to,
mean, what are you saying, Mike?
I don't think being anonymous and asking the things that pertain to you is any difficult task to.
No, I'm saying, do you think they're gonna come in here, make them come in
If
here?
it's important to them, they should be able to come in here and express their concerns over a specific section.
Yeah, and I don't think that is meant to criticize anybody.
No, I'm not saying
Or put anybody in
criticize
a
them, but they
spot.
may-
We're looking for their feedback, we're looking.
Yeah, because they do the job every
Yeah,
day.
we're genuinely looking for their input on some of these things. How does it affect you? What do you think? How do you feel?
I agree with you 100%, but I'm just saying, I don't know if they're gonna wanna come down here and sit, but maybe, like Mike said, if it means that much to them, they will. I just thought they threw it on a piece of paper, and we were discussing 1 through J that night, and they knew it, they could jot it down, we could read them ahead of time, and we know their concerns, that's all. But that's fine, I mean,
Well, the only
sit in
thing,
front of us or whatever.
the question doesn't lead to discussion, it leads to an answer. And the answer may not be what that particular employee wrote down and wanted to hear for an answer. Where does that lead? Does it lead to another note, another discussion?
Right.
And then it goes, does it end? Where if we had a discussion, then there's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. There's a dialogue, and then there can be a finish to it, an end, a resolution.
It sounds simple.
Listen, everything sounds simple when you put it on the
Sounds simple.
blackboard, Bill. I know in
Sounds
real life,
simple.
it's seldom that way.
and I agree with Bill. I mean, I don't think you're gonna get anybody come in and talk against it.
You don't have to talk against it, they could talk for it.
Or talk for it, I don't think you're gonna get somebody to do any criticizing if they don't like something. I don't think they're gonna do it. I think if they had a chance to write it down and present it with the questions, I think that would be the better way to handle it.
Is there a person in town hall that could come and represent the people? The employees, maybe they'd feel better having
A union representative? No, I don't want
union
that.
representative, I'm just saying someone that, whatever, I mean, we're making more talk out than we need to.
Well, they have an employee representative on the committee. She didn't feel it was their job to reach out to the employees. She felt that was the Board of Selectmen's job when they came before you a few weeks ago.
So let's reach out to the employees and ask them for their input. If nobody comes, then we get the answer and.
Well, you know what?
Right.
I'm willing to go both ways. If the employee wants to show up and get to the podium and give us their honest input, we'll listen and honestly take that input into consideration. If they want to send us a letter, I'll take the letter, but they're only going to get an answer. There'll be no dialogue back and forth, so they'll have to be happy with whatever the answer is.
Well, they can come back and on a rebut.
Well,
Another letter?
this is what I didn't want to get into, and then we continue hashing over the same sections back and forth, back and forth. For how long do we do that before we say enough is enough?
Then we shouldn't even have the dialogue in the beginning, then if we're gonna ultimately have the ultimate say and say the way it's gonna be, then we should just do it out of the gate, don't kick the can down the road. We'll just say, go out of the gate, go through this thing, and we say what we're gonna do, and that's the end of it. I mean, that's the way it would end up at the end of the day if we didn't let dialogue take place, right?
I agree, and that's why I would hope that people would put on their big boy pants and their big girl skirts or whatever, and have the intestinal fortitude to sit up in front of us, this is not an inquisition, and say, yeah, I kind of like this section, but I'm not crazy about this, and offer suggestions. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
We could go through and say, we're going to accept this, we're gonna make these changes, but we don't live by this every
No, I
day,
agree.
right?
I agree with
this,
you.
This has very little effect on us.
I
so
know when I have
This
my-
affects the people that work here,
Right.
so if you don't like something in it, come tell us and
I
tell
know
us
with
why.
my employees, I have employees that may not like something I'm doing. They do not come and say, Bill, can we sit down and talk with you? They'll go to my son, they'll go to my wife, they'll go, you know what I mean? Or they'll drop subtle hints here and there, and it turns into drama. And they just, I don't know what it is, they don't feel comfortable coming, and a
Well,
lot of
I guess they
people.
could come to us off camera if they wanted to, and we could take it back. It just creates more paperwork and more time.
I agree.
And lengthening it out and kicking it down the road.
And it's
Not
already
a
been
big
kicked down the
deal to
road for
come in
20
here. Yeah,
years.
it's not a big deal to come in here and voice your concerns.
There was only a
and-
couple places, Denise, am I correct, there was the big changes, was just what I talked about, was in the, there wasn't like a lot of major changes in it, right?
On the PTO, there was some
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
Time off.
mostly, yeah, it's mostly the time
probationary
off.
periods.
I will say, most of the policies have to be removed per town council. They can't be just in a personnel policy. They have to apply to all employees, not just those that are covered by this. So all of the,
Union employees as well.
correct, so like the drug and alcohol policy,
Mm-hmm.
the quarry, all of those have to be removed from this document. Most of it is time off, when they can accrue, how much time they can accrue. I think the biggest change is going from a standard accrual time of vacation, sick, and personal to a PTO of a one bank of time.
Right,
So,
which is,
so that being said, carry me through this, that being said, if you worked out there, wouldn't you want all you could get?
Right, but so,
You'd want all you can get,
yep,
right? So you're gonna come in here and push for all that you can get, but we may not, at the end of the day, we may not be able to afford that, you know what I'm trying to say? So you're gonna get tug and war no matter what you do that way. Someone's gotta put the big pants on and say, this is the way it is, or whatever, and we're trying to be fair to the employees, that's me, I'm trying to be fair, and I understand. But I think doing that, we're gonna end up having to have pull and tuck. I mean,
right, and my comment to Bill earlier was, and that's all fine, but I do think you need to solicit input from department heads, because we have one-person departments, and going from vacation, sick, and personal to now a pot of time that can be used all for vacation is gonna create a hardship in some departments when people are out 8 weeks a year.
Right.
When they don't have that now.
Right.
And I just think you need to take that into consideration as well, because we have, you know, the Board of Health, if she's out, that office is closed. The Assessor's Office, that office is closed. We don't have coverage, we don't have backup for those offices that can provide for services for our residents if someone's taking all
2
of that
weeks at a
time now
time.
as vacation versus these days are sick, this is personal, this is your vacation. So I just think it's something important to weigh the pros and cons of, because it is a big change and it will impact our service here.
Did it say anything in there that you can only take 2 weeks at a time maximum, or something like that?
no, I
No.
didn't
So-
read that.
Is that
in
something
there.
that we could,
You could, I mean, you could
Talk
put,
about?
absolutely.
So that being said, do we go back to the board that did this document? Now that we've read it, we go back to the board that this, and said, listen, this is our concerns. Can you guys listen to our concern and maybe go back to the drawing board and change it a little bit, or that's done?
That's, no,
That
it's up
ship
to you,
is
if you
sailed.
wanna bring them back
That won't
in.
involve the employees as much yet. We're trying to, we know what we can do on our end as far as the financial and, like you said, coverage in offices and et cetera, et cetera. Let's compile our questions back to the board that did this, see if they can hear us out in a meeting, we bring them in, we have a meeting, we sit down, we talk to them, let them understand our point, and then we maybe do it that way. You think that's fair?
I think they've done a great job
Oh,
with
no,
this.
no, I'm not saying they haven't, I'm not at all. I
But
think
I
they've
don't-
done a great job, and I appreciate what they did.
I don't know
think
what
we gotta
questions that
fine-tune it.
we throw back to them.
Well, Denise just said, you know, do they understand the point that if we adopt this, that we have offices that are vacant?
That's the department heads, not the folks that put this together.
Right, but they're the ones that made the suggestion, aren't they? They're the ones that made the suggestion, not the department heads didn't make the suggestion, the committee made the suggestion. Let them understand what we're up against. Maybe not.
I guess I'm lost. I'm not sure I understand the question. I read this and they seemed to have done a very, very good job. The question that has been brought up is the employees didn't really have much of a say in this. So to have us have questions and throw it back to the committee still doesn't answer the initial question where's the employee involvement?
Well, in the beginning, we had a representative from the town for the employees. We did have that person in place, so they had their chance at that point in time to discuss it with us. And I forget the person's name, but I do
Lynn.
believe that person had come in, Lynn, right? So they did have their input then, that should have been taken care of. Granted, the conversation didn't go the right way or whatever. Now we're talking about this for 15 minutes, now I'm saying, instead of bringing the people in, and instead of going back, do we go back to the committee that did a very fine job doing this and say there's certain things, now that we've had a good look at this, we don't think that we can afford, or we have a problem, minor problem with it, and let them understand that there could be an office empty, because if that person decides to take that time off, it's gonna make a hardship on behalf of the town, running. That's all I'm saying.
At that point, I think we change it.
Okay,
I mean, I don't think they have any, they've thrown this ball in our court now and say, this is our best recommendation for an up-to-date personnel policy that's reflective of the year 2019 as opposed to year 1989. So it brings us into the real world with benefits that are competitive with other surrounding towns and municipalities and private industry to not only attract but retain top talent. I mean, that was the goal of this thing, I think, to update our manual so that we can appear to be competitive in a very competitive world right now. So I think they've done their job. Now, the question is, maybe we don't even want to involve the employees. Maybe we just want to look at this ourselves and say, this is it. I know in private industry, when HR sends down a document such as this, they do not ask the employee to think. They don't even ask the department heads what they think. It's usually done at a corporate level with human resources. They put it together with their lawyers and their HR representatives, and they pass it out and say, sign it, this is your new handbook. Much probably what you do in your own personal business, Bill. Probably have a personnel handbook, but you probably didn't have a meeting of all your employees to say, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? You said,
Right.
this is the employee handbook, you will follow it if you want to be employed by Dunn Landscaping.
okay. So that being said, let's get some numbers together, A through Z or whatever, and we'll go through it next meeting, we'll put on the agenda, we'll do what you said, we'll go through all the numbers, next meeting, we'll discuss that section. And we'll stop kicking the can down the road and we'll get on with it. That's all I can say. I mean, I was trying to be fair, and I granted we have been, because we did have their input originally, so I agree with you saying, you know, looking at it that way.
And let's let them have their input again.
Yep.
If they wish to come before us, they're welcome.
Okay.
If they wish to send a note, they're welcome. The note may only receive an answer, and that may be the end of it.
Okay.
Person coming before us may receive a dialogue and get a more lengthy explanation or better understanding.
Okay.
That's the chance they have to take, whether they want to come in person or whether they want to send a note. But I think we can involve the employees either way, right? So that being said, will that work with everybody? Does that sound like a logical way to approach this
This is their
document?
opportunity to do what they want to get involved with their personnel, so. Take advantage or don't take advantage,
Speak now, if you ever hold your peace, right?
up to you.
Sure, I'd give them a chance to make comments on it. It affects them, and it hasn't been updated in quite a while, so they should have their say.
I agree.
And whether they come before us or send a note, their concerns about a certain area, I think they should have a chance to speak about it.
And we'll do our best to take those concerns under advisement, but at the end of the day, everyone has to understand that this responsibility falls on us. This is our call. It's going to be our mission, right? We'll take into consideration, but like Bill has said many times, it may sound good, they may love it, but we may not be able to afford everything in this package. We might have to scale some things back. That's just the reality of the situation, right? So if everyone's read it, like I said, do we have any 50,000 kind of overview comments, such as like the one I made, that if we could have some consistency in the paragraphs That would make the, a little bit easier reading. On page 17, if we could move the resignation to the next page, just because it looks kind of funky sitting there all alone.
So is this what you'd like me to report back to the committee? Is that what you're recommending?
Do we have this document in Word? Can we do it? Or maybe they want to do it because they
Who's
kind
the
of...
"we"? That's really my point. When you say "we,"
Yeah, my wife says we, that means me.
Yeah.
Me don't want to do a lot of things.
No. Well, if they wouldn't mind, I guess this is their baby. So if they could make some of the changes as we go, in conjunction and in coordination with us, I think that would be a real collaborative effort and allow us to move forward in a much
But
more efficient and
We
fluid
just got
way.
done discussing a few minutes ago that we're gonna take this bullet on ourselves and not go back to that board. We're gonna just,
We're not asking them for changes, we're not asking them to make decisions, we're asking them to make changes. Cosmetic changes or changes to sections that we have decided that we don't agree with or we want to change.
I'm gonna make a suggestion for the next agenda, if we can discuss, which I saw the biggest part of this whole thing was the time off, in that situation, in that document, if we can discuss that next time, and then ask the other board members to do what you just said, come in with whatever changes they see fit in this thing, and we'll discuss them in the next agenda item. Can we do that?
You want to jump right to PTO.
Well, I didn't really see, I didn't see too many major things other than that, yeah, there was some wording things, but I mean, I know what Denise said, we have to deal with that for town council, that's gotta be struck from it, I mean, that's an easy thing to do, and whoever,
I've got a lot of markings all over the place.
well, I think we're gonna need to leave a good amount of time then for the next meeting, we're gonna have to lot some good, time to go through all this.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, if we take section 6, that's pages 11, 12, 13, through the beginning of page 18, that's roughly 6 pages that we could get through, I think, relatively quickly, even with employee input. We could put those 6, 7 pages to bed relatively quickly, and then move right on to the next session, which would be the benefits, leave, and eligibility. Section 7, which I think would cover your PTO bill. And maternity, that would take us to the holidays. And that would pretty much take us into Appendix A, which is the affirmative action plan. So, the way I look at it, you've got 2 meetings, and we're into Appendix A. We've covered we've covered the lion's share of the document, other than the appendixes. Would that be correct, Denise?
Just double checking. I believe so.
So you'd have roughly 6, 7 pages to take care of next week, and then 10 pages the following meeting, which might be a little more involved, because that is gonna involve the PTO, it's gonna involve a lot of the vacation
And we also
policy
need
and
to
things
have a
like that.
discussion, we need to have Denise here for that discussion as well, when we get into that section. I think, personally.
It would help. I mean, I'm never gonna say that she is not a valuable asset to these meetings. Certainly is, and then some. And you're going out on, if we do that section, okay,
I will not be at your 3/18 meeting,
but you'll be at the next meeting.
correct.
So
Do that section then.
why don't we do that? We'll flip-flop them, and we'll take on section 7 first, which is the benefits, leaves, and eligibility section. First, before we take on the terms of employment, or the, I guess we'd call the preamble, or the,
We could probably discuss then striking out that section that you need to have striked out for town council at the same time.
Yeah, the policies, that's fine.
Right.
And I'll have to go through, a lot of the highlights in there are things that I need to fill out regarding the benefits and health insurance, and I haven't made any changes, I haven't made any comments on it, so I can certainly go through and identify the stuff that they did not know and were not aware of that's in the document.
yeah, I have mine marked up like a Christmas tree, to tell you the truth, so I've got something in every section that I could definitely get a deeper dive for, but to Bill's point, I think he makes a very valid point that we probably should take on the PTO section while you're here. I think the terms of employment are much easier to handle. From what I see, a lot of more cosmetic things. Although the employee's performance reviews, I would like to see some of that change just to make it easier administratively. It would be easier, I think. Let's see, other than that. Other than that, if we could get a little, maybe a little bit more visual, anyone, getting back to Bill's PTO, you know, if we had like a little box, 0 to 2 years, you get this, X to so many years that, this to so many years that, as opposed to all written out, it's kind of, it just makes it a little more difficult to identify, like right away if you looked at.
So you want a table?
A table, perfect, thank you. A table would capture that whole paragraph, and sum it up visually in a matter of a millisecond. Other than that, I thought it was very well written. I thought it was very comprehensive. There's a few things we left out on purpose, right, till we get to it. Such as, on page 11, town's commercial driver's license, alcohol and drug testing policy attached as appendix blank.
Right, because that's actually coming out.
Okay,
The CDL policy.
Okay.
Applies more to the unions and not to anyone under the personnel. policy.
right, so those things will follow. But those are my main comments, on this.
So do you want to give the pages, so you want to get through the section, 7, whatever you, so we can
Yes.
put that on the agenda so we can.
I would-
So I have section 7, the benefits, leave, and eligibility will be discussed at the 3-4 meeting.
Mhm.
And then pages 11 to 17, which I think you should probably start at page 1. Do that at another time.
No, we could start at page 1, but a lot of this, I'll be honest, 1, 2, definitions, maintenance, the only thing, definitions, I didn't really come into anything until I came to page 11 and the recruitment section. I didn't notice anything that I would change or had any disagreement with or objections to, even language. So, we can cover that too, so we can go to 1 to 18 on the meeting of the 18th. I don't think 1 through 10 will take us more than 30 seconds. I don't think anyone will find anything out of sorts there. At least I didn't.
Do we need a motion, or are we good with just,
Putting on the agenda.
okay.
And again, it's an open invite, all the employees that wish to comment. Where can the employees find this draft? Is it on the website?
The committee has it, I can certainly provide it. But I don't think we should be putting draft documents on our website.
No, probably not.
So if they need it, they can go to, and get it from Denny?
Right, and right now, I'd only release section 7, because that's the only thing in discussion.
Would it be out of line to drop, an email to the employee, say, it's in my office if you want it? Would that be out of line?
I mean, I can just email it out if that's what you want. Policy has nothing to do with me, so, I'm not covered by it. Obviously, my employees are affected by it, but, however you wanna do it. If you want me
Well,
to, but I don't think I should be the one making changes to it.
We're covering giving them the draft.
It's fine.
It's not done yet, but
Well, that's why it's a draft.
So which draft should I give them? The red line version or the one that approves of all the changes? Which one would you like me to give out?
none, forget it.
Well, we
just
have
get
multiple
to-
documents to deal with, so I
Forget
have
it.
one that has all the red lines through it. I have one that has the
Let's
changes
just wait, let's just wait till
accepted.
it's done, I guess,
Which
then.
version do we have right here?
This is the one accepting the changes, that doesn't show all the, I mean, it shows some of them that they purposely left struck through, but it doesn't show all the.
I have one that has a revision date of 1/23/19. Is that the latest? That's what I have here, latest copy. Is that the latest copy?
Yes, that was the day after our last meeting when it was sent out,
Be
yes.
the latest copy, right?
Well, I don't know
But I
if this one.
accepted the changes before I gave it to you guys, so you didn't have to, I sent it to you in several different versions.
Right, there was a
One was with the
formatted
changes
word.
with all the notes, one was accepting the
Now,
changes. Do
the
you
one
want
I
me to
have
send
is
them?
revised 214.
That's just when I reprinted it for the packet. It's the same document, it hasn't changed since the 123 version.
So no one but the committee and us have seen this document? Is that what
I
you're
don't
saying?
know. I know that the committee, I know some employees had asked for copies of it. I don't know if everyone has seen it. I really don't know.
What's the best way for you, without adding to your work, to get this in the hands of anyone that wants it?
No, I can easily email it out. It's just which version would you like me to send out to people? This one that accepts the changes, or do you want me to send it out showing what's being proposed as changes? What would you like them to review?
I think the one that has the proposed changes in it. This is gonna be the one that's most relevant to them, right? And to us. I mean, if the document is as old as I think it is, the changes they make, they might not even understand. They've been so long. When's the last time they've seen, this hasn't been updated in how many years? The copy they may have it turned to dust by now.
Well, everyone gets it when they're hired, but that's fine. So you want me to send the one that shows the red line changes? Or you want me to show the one with the changes? Are you guys assuming that you're accepting all of the changes that were proposed, and that's what they should look at?
I would think that's a bad assumption.
Okay.
I would think that
The proposed.
the proposed changes is the one they should look at, because that's the one we're thinking of going with. However, it's not final. I mean, this is a working document. We're looking at this as a draft.
Okay.
We're looking to get some employee feedback that may change some of the document. It may not. I don't know, this is why I didn't get into HR when I was a kid, you know what I mean? Stuck with numbers. 2 and 2 is 4. I didn't have to discuss anything else. Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Mike?
Sure.
Couldn't be better.
Ed?
Yep.
Okay. So, I guess we can move right along on that and move to the review and discussion of the fire department study. So, Bill, I'll begin with you this time. Start in
Okay.
the middle.
So, as far as the study goes, I think it circled us right back to where we started in the beginning, that we need to hire a good fire chief with the knowledge, the qualification, all the degrees, the certificates. And we, as the BOS, should work on what we belong working on, and it is the job of getting us a good chief. That being said, if we need to, and they're stating that there could be a problem with staffing, if we had to make a temporary fix for some staffing, if it was a real bad situation, we should do that until we hire a chief, or work with the department, that whoever's in charge, the chief now, or whatever, if that is a bad enough situation. From there, I think it would be the new chief to implement the MRI report, and the chief is to work with the BOS in the department. I don't think we should be in the business of taking this report, acting on it, other than what our job role is, and our job role is to get a chief, a good qualified chief, and I think that's our role. I don't think we should be, let the new chief get this report, go through it, let him talk to his department men, and let them all work it out. I mean, the chief is gonna need to get into the department, to get in there, to understand what he's got, what he's working with, work with this document, and then go from there. I don't even think we should, yeah, it's gonna be our job, do we need a full-time chief or a part-time chief? That's going to be we're gonna have the headache, do we need it? Do we don't need it? Granted, I still think when we get into that conversation, we have the MR report, I think we should go and get the acting chief, captain at one department, captain at another department, possibly, having them come in and stating, do they think we need a full-time chief or whatever? The report states that we need a full-time chief. I know our past chief that was here before us, he had come in and said, I can't do this job in the allotted amount of time. And that's gotta be something to be said, reading this report. So I think our job should be focused on our job. And I said it back before this report went out, we needed to get a good, strong chief, and that's where we needed to go. I've said enough again.
Could never say
Sorry.
too much. Selectman Watson?
Well, I concur with Bill on most of that, but also recommendation 3 by MRI recommend that an independent third party conduct the search and develop a job description with the position and salary requirements in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen and the Groveland Fire Department input. I think it should come out of a third party conducting the search. And then maybe recommending to the Board of Selectmen, like we did for the Highway Department, recommending maybe 3 people, bring them before the board, and interview them.
Anything else?
I'm all set.
Selectman Wood?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Bill and Ed had to say. My only question is, and is really not an opinion on it yet, do we make that jump from the current hours that we had set forth for the fire chief to full-time? Is that too much of a leap, or do we stagger it to 25 or 27 hours and then see how that works out, and then go to a full 40 hours with everything works? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't formulated an opinion on that. I'm just wondering, is that too much of a leap to go from the 19 hours or so that it was originally to 40, or do we stop and have a pivot stone halfway through to see if that's enough? I don't know.
Well, perhaps the 19 hours a week to start with, and you get somebody on board, and with the understanding that the hours may increase, and see how the individual handles the 19 hours.
Well, I think that we would agree, or we would have a discussion anyways, that the original 19 hours probably wasn't enough. But is 40 too much? That's what I'm trying to cope with. Is that too much of a leap to go to, or is it?
Once you get over a certain amount of hours, it's a full-time job anyway.
Right,
Well,
right.
it's a benefit
The
eligible.
benefit,
Right.
right, and that's what I understand. But it's just, I agree 19 is probably not enough for that department of that size and that responsibility. But I don't know if 40 is a giant leap to get to, and is that too much?
Yep.
But I don't know that it makes all that much difference once we're into benefits eligibility anyways.
No, but if I may, I think you need to decide on hours. I would disagree, Ed. You're gonna have different candidates apply if it's a 19-hour-a-week job versus a 30 or 35-hour-a-week
Right.
job. I mean, we went 2 years with a vacant town planner because no one wanted to work part-time. I think I think you're gonna narrow your pool of candidates dramatically if you're gonna stay with 19 in anticipation of increasing.
Well, I'm looking at the increase in salary for the townspeople.
Oh, I agree.
You know, every time you add a benefit eligible person, it costs the taxpayers money. And we're looking at potentially a new school, along with other capital projects. How much can you go back to the townspeople and say, you know, we need this, we need that? You hear people saying, well, gee, if my taxes go up another $300-400, I'm going to have to move out of town. I feel bad for the people on a fixed income, these people that may be on, some of the senior citizens that are on, maybe just on Social Security. They can't afford it. So what's the breaking point?
Well, I agree with that, but changing the position of a fire chief won't impact residents' taxes. It's not, it has to be done within the tax levy. We could cut elsewhere if you're gonna make that change.
And
So
that's a
it's not-
department that touches everybody in
When-
town. It's not
Correct.
just
So-
buying an equipment for the highway department or something
Right,
like that.
so I mean, I agree that if you think it's a 19-hour job, then it needs to, I just think expecting to hire someone at 19 and then increasing it, you're gonna just narrow your pool of candidates. So if that's what you wanna stay at 19, that's fine, but I just think, whatever is done has to be done within our levy limit anyways and stay within the Prop 2.5. So it's not gonna change taxes 1 cent, whether you hire a full-time fire chief or keep it at 19 hours. We're just cutting elsewhere and making do with that.
So what I was gonna say is, if you read that report, some of his weakness areas were, and it's not only in our town, he said it's in a lot of other towns, staffing. So if you were to turn around and sell the town people this, that we need a possible full-time chief, we know we're gonna be going down the road with a staffing issue already. So do we get a full-time chief and then possibly work something with our guys where they're paid a little bit of money in the department? That's something that we shouldn't be getting in the business of, because that should be the chief that comes on board, that gets to handle the situation. What we need to do is make sure our department is safe, our men are safe, our people are safe. In that report, we have to temporarily make sure that there's enough staffing on the ground during the day in those weakness hours. Furthermore, I truly think that we have men on the ground that we need to bring before us. I said it before, I think it should be the captains, the chief, the interim chief, not the men, but the core value people, and have a conversation. And I'd have that conversation, I said it before, I'd have the conversation with them, but we need to hear what they got to say. Do they think it's a 19-hour, 20-hour, 30, or 35? Then come back to the board and have the discussion with the board. I don't know that department good enough, other than what I read here, other than what I see go on and hear go on, but I don't want to make that decision what hour it should be. And I do believe we're going down the road where we're gonna be looking at a staffing issue, and he made sure we knew about that. So we gotta look at that. As far, me as a selectman, been voted by the people, I wanna make sure that one of the weaknesses I see is a big weakness.
Well, you're right as far as the staffing issue, but that, one of our neighboring communities, Georgetown, they're having problems staffing their ambulance. They're on a per diem basis, but they've been taking, they took some people from Groveland to staff the ambulance because they just don't have the personnel. When they first started out, they thought it was going to be great, and it was. But then it kind of got old after a while. The guys just, a minimum amount of hours a week, and they just ran out of people. And then they started to reach out to some of the surrounding communities, and I know they took some of the people from Groveland to help staff the ambulances over there, and as well as some of the other surrounding communities. So I think we should start with the head of the department and then work from there.
And part of his report clearly stated that we are more of an EMS department than we are fire. And we're going that way, and I say it because we're putting in these over 55 projects and over 55, granted, whatever. We're going to go EMS more so than fire. And today with the fire, I guess I'm not a firefighter, but with today, the way that things are being built, I don't think fire happens as much as or whatever. But that being said, going EMS, we need to gear up toward making sure we have the personnel here. I know we have Trinity that will back us up, and Trinity, I've heard sometimes Trinity, when I was a chairman, couldn't get here, and You know, they do a great job, don't get me wrong, I'm not scaring anyone, but, you know, I still think that we have a retired firefighter, that we're lucky to have him on the ground during the day, and he fills in a lot, which is great, and I just think it's gonna get harder and harder. And I don't think we should kick the can down the road again. I think we should get on this chief thing, do what we need to do, and let's get it going. It's been almost 9 months or whatever it's been. Let's do it. I mean, it's our duty to do it.
I agree with that. We do have to make that decision, but I would guard against making anything hastily or.
No, I'm not saying hastily, but if we have a
Rashly.
procedure we need to start with.
Right. As far as advertising the job for 19 hours a week, I'd be reluctant to do that and then in a couple of weeks say, we need you to jack up your hours to 25 or 30, because that may not be what attracted that individual to the job in the first place. What attracted him was a part-time, I'm retired firefighter, I just want to work that many hours. When it becomes more than that, I didn't want to sign up for full-time. So I think we ought to be honest with whoever we engage from the beginning, that this is probably gonna be
This,
a 30-hour
right.
a week job.
This position,
realistically.
I've sat down in negotiations before. I can tell you this position has job qualifications that needs to be met. You're not gonna just take some guy, you're gonna need to get the job qualifications, certain licenses, certain, whatever they need, certificates, whatever. This is going to be a job qualification that we're gonna need to have help, whatever, however we go about it. I don't know if Denise has some way of doing it, or whoever does it, third party, whatever. The job qualifications for this job needs to be written up the right way, and the owner, I don't wanna do that. I think that we need to have input from the right people. And that's where I thought this MRI report was gonna give us, not to tell me about the department, because I pretty much knew what went on throughout that whole department. I thought that report was gonna come back and say, okay, but that's not.
The report, in my estimation, I agree with you, did fall short in those expectations that I had.
Very short, not
as
zero.
well.
And that's what I wanted, that's what when I kept pushing for, we need a chief, that's where I thought this report was gonna get me. It didn't get me, it got to me, I already know what that report said. I knew it from being in Groveland, I knew it from being in, you know, a selectman or whatever.
Well, I was hoping it would tell me a little more
Well-
too, regarding the equipment.
I would have rather thrown the
Age,
money toward the chief's salary, myself.
Well, I don't know how much that would have gotten us. You know, some of the information is valuable, obviously, it just, in my opinion, I don't think it went far enough. It didn't discuss the age and the requirements of the equipment we have, the trucks.
But a good chief would do that.
Well, you would hope so. Again, it all goes back to hiring the right individual in that leadership role that's going to understand the working relationship they have with this board as well as with their men and with the citizens of Groveland. It's a multi-spoked wheel there, no doubt about it. But now, when we go to advertise for this chief, how many hours should we advertise for? Should we be realistic in our expectations? It's probably not gonna be a 19-hour-a-week job. We were told that originally. We got rid of an admin assistant because the person told us they would take over that function in the time they had, which turned out to be just a lot of hot air.
I would
don't
like to
think
have
it
the
ever
conversation
came.
with the people in place now to see if I personally can get them to give me a good idea what they think time-wise. That's just me.
Expound on that. What do you mean?
I would like to talk to either the chief, acting chief, or someone in the department. Do they think it's a 19-hour, 20-hour, 30-hour? Because they obviously doing the job, done it. They know what it needs. I mean, that's what I would like to have for conversation.
Well, they've done it. The question is, have they done it well? And if they haven't done it well, what's the reason for them?
But if they're doing, my point is they're doing the job now, are they doing it well at whatever hours they're working at? Or do they think they need more hours to do the job better?
Well, right now, we have an interim who's really, I think, gone well beyond what we've asked him for, and really gone above and beyond, I think, what our expectations were of him.
Right. So you would think between him and other department people, they would be able to tell us that they've been in the department, especially some of the captains, whatever, assistant chiefs, whatever, they've been in the department, they're gonna say, no, I don't think you can do that job in 19 hours. I think it's gonna be 27 or 30 to do the job. Maybe they can come back to me and say, hey, you know something, we need to do this, this, and this, we haven't even been able to do.
What if they come back and say, it's a 60-hour-week job, we need 2 people? Do we hire a full-time at 40 and a part-time at 20? I mean, that's, now again, we get
I'd rather
into
go and have
costs
the
and we say,
conversation and try to figure it out from there. That's my point.
Well, you certainly could ask have the acting chief come in, and how many hours are realistically spending? And what, like Bill just said, what had you wish you could accomplish if you had more hours? And get his input.
Our past chief had been before us and had said the job needed more hours.
correct, but you have to remember, this is also a chief that wrote the job description that said he could do the job in 14.
Okay,
And then 6 months later came back and said, man, I can't do that after he wrote his own job
so
description, so.
like Ed said, we need to talk to the person that's doing the job now, or the person that has done the job, or maybe we can just have a quick conversation and reconvene this conversation at a later date.
Oh, we
I would
talked,
feel more comfortable doing that.
we talked to a person, if we could, from a neighboring town that does the job now and
Sure.
says, what kind of hours do you really need to
We'd
put
have to
into
get the
that job?
same department, the same structure of the department and everything else.
But I'm sure there's some around.
I'm sure.
What does West Newbury have? They have a full-time chief,
No idea.
Merrimack?
Merrimack's full-time. I don't think West Newbury's full-time, but I think they're,
he's full-time either.
they're having some public safety stuff going on over there with possible
He's
stuff.
the chief over there, he's part-time.
He's part-time?
He's part-time.
How many hours do you know?
I don't know, but he's a full-time police officer in West Newbury.
Right.
But he lives in town of Groveland, and he's a part-time chief.
I'm sure if you ask the interim chief, he's gonna say it's a 40-hour job. I mean, if you look at the payroll over the last 6 months, more and more administrative work is being done by members of the department because
He doesn't have.
there's
the
just not enough
to
time.
do
I
it.
mean, he works full-time, so
Right.
in order to do the job around his current job, but we've had the conversation in the past, when Mike, Lisa, and I met with the department, it was, they need a full-time chief. And I do think it's important, whatever the number of hours, I think it's important to have someone there 5 days a week. We have permits that can't be approved because we're not hearing back in a timely manner. There are emails that don't get answered in a timely manner, so, work sort of halts until they can come in, or they come in on their Tuesday night, and then we hear back from them. I think someone should be there 5 days a week, answering to the residents, the board, and fellow departments when things are needed. So whether that turns out to be a 30-hour position, or a 40-hour position, or a 25-hour position, I do think it's more than 19, and I do think we're gonna have to budget for benefits and
Right.
and accrued time and things like that.
So what I was trying to allude to originally was, I guess I'll come right out with it. So if they need a 40-hour, and this is where I probably shouldn't even get into it, but I'm just hypothetically talking. If they needed a person that's 40, and we know we have a situation where we don't have enough guys on the ground during the day, why couldn't we get 2 for 40?
Well, you could have a working
Something like
chief.
that, you know, I mean, this is where we need to have a conversation with the people that are there, but now we have 2 people on the ground that are ready to go if we need them during the day or on.
Right, but you could have a working chief. The police chief is a working chief in uniform. If
No,
he's
no, I
needed
got
out on
that.
the
That's exactly
street,
what I'm
he's
saying.
there all day.
That's exactly
Right.
what I'm saying, a working chief and possibly someone with him for the pay of 40, you know, the pay rate of 40. They're not each gonna get 40. I mean, we shouldn't even have this conversation until we can understand better what is there. You know what I mean?
And staffing with the call department is always gonna be an issue.
I agree, and that's what that
as
MRI
folks'
report-
life
that's what
gets
the
more and
report
more
clearly stated.
complicated,
Right.
trying to find people that are willing to do that and work off shifts is extremely difficult.
If, my point was, if we had a full-time chief, and he went off in the EMS truck by himself, and then someone didn't show, he's out there doing the work by himself. You can't really do that. You can't really send him off, I guess. I mean, maybe you could, I mean, it's gonna help.
If he's the only one there, you don't have a choice.
Right, you don't have a choice,
Well, but at
but,
that point, the police are the first responders that would be there
Right.
as well, and then you'd be
And then
having,
Trinity.
right, Trinity. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there needs to be more, we need to look more into the per diem approach, but my concern with per diem is, how do you then keep the true on-call employees engaged when you have people that are picking
Right.
up set shifts? So how do you make sure that those folks that can only report to certain calls stay engaged in the town and reporting when they don't have guaranteed shifts? You know, those are things that I think a chief should work out and,
Right.
and work with the department.
Right.
Or come up with mutual aid agreements that he doesn't have to worry about staffing his entire department 24/7, 365, because he can count on surrounding communities to aid in some of these responses.
I think we are missing a piece of the puzzle. We got the puzzle piece from MRI, we got the piece stating that we need a chief, we got the piece that the deficiencies. It's our job now, like I said, to work on a chief. We shouldn't be going into the meddling of the department, how it runs. We need to see what we need for a chief, we need a job criteria, we need hours, and me personally think that we need to have a conversation, maybe like Denise said, another department, another town, or maybe the people in our department. That's the discussion we need to have now. They've had a chance to read it, because I know they all got it. Come back, next meeting, whatever, and report back. I mean, then we go, and then we report back, we know what we got, and then we turn around and we, maybe can put a job qualification, we'll have a better idea on hours and everything else. That's just my opinion, I mean, I don't know if someone else has an opinion.
What will we specifically ask the fire department to report back on?
If I was to go there, I'd ask them to report to me on what they think they need for a chief, hour-wise, et cetera, on the one, me as a selectman, on the staffing issue during the day, what would their remedy be? What's their opinion on that? I'm only gonna go to what my job as a board of selectmen is, that's it.
Acting Chief Rosella, you're in the audience currently. Do you have an opinion right now on, and are you prepared to share that opinion with us? Looks like he is.
You can sit down if you want right there.
No, I'll stand, thanks. Yeah, Kurt Rochella, I'm the Assistant Fire Chief, 16 Union Street in Groveland.
You've also been Deputy Fire Chief for a number of years as well? Is
Be
that-
2 years coming up. I've been on the department for 22 years, I believe, and I've served as a firefighter, lieutenant, captain, now currently the Assistant Fire Chief, and I served for about 6 months as the interim fire chief.
So in the past 5 years, you would be as close to a fire chief as we have?
Yes, yes. I've definitely served the longest in that position. And I believe when we had written the report last winter, I think it was maybe February of last winter, we had the officers get together and we looked at what we thought we needed for a structure going forward. And that included a full-time chief, 40 hours a week. And one of the things that the chief does is not just administrative. They'll look at training for the firefighters. There'll be a cohesiveness to the department, which I think will help keep the call force integrated into the daily activity of the fire department. And that's the most important thing that we think as a department is, sorry.
Besides answering calls? Uh-oh.
Let me just, sorry. They're training tonight, so there's plenty of folks over there. And we really think that keeping the call model is the best value for the town. But during the day, during the week, it's very hard. I was home actually on, had a couple doctor's appointments on Friday, and I stopped home, just happened to be in town for a call. And I responded on my own, and I had one other person in town. So, and then we had another one of the captains was in Bradford, so he came over. And then we had another firefighter who lives in West Newbury, he came over. So we had 4 total, but it probably took us over 15 minutes to get everyone there, if not 20.
To
So,
assemble the entire 4.
right. If it had been a fire, I would have definitely gotten the mutual aid partners on the road.
quick. But that just shows you we are vulnerable during the day, during the week.
Do you know how many, or do you have an estimate of how many hours current interim Chief York is right now handing or delegating down as far as paperwork? How many hours that would consume?
I'm not sure. I've been doing most of the plans review that's been coming around for Nichols Village and then some of the subdivisions that are coming through. So he's been handing those down to me to review. But from the other standpoint, I don't know exactly what hours he's working. I know it's tiring. I know when I was doing it nights and weekends, it's tiring.
I can imagine, especially if you really weren't prepared to take on that kind of role and responsibility and duties, where they were basically thrust upon you, and we appreciate yours and interim Chief York's
Yeah, because we
commitment.
we don't want to see this fail. We want to see the fire department active, and we want to see the call model succeed. But that also comes with some temperament of avoiding being burnt out. And I think the MRI report does a good job at outlining what that's really needs to look like. I know other departments that have gone to, they put in the fire chief, it's a natural progression to put on a fire chief full-time, and then slowly add the staff during the week, whether it's per diem, or whether it's a scattering of full-time folks, then per diem, to balance it out. But what typically happens is the chief then becomes the responder. So once again, if they're in meetings, or they're doing other types of administrative work, they're called out constantly. As the call volume goes up. Most of our calls are during the day, during the week now. So that is an issue with the fire chief trying to do other things administratively and then constantly have to leave for half hour, 45 minutes, hour. It disrupts a lot of other things that are going on that need their attention. So I just bring that up, that it's something to consider, and that it is a natural progression to do the chief first and then add the staff. And then adding per diem folks, most likely the per diem folks are gonna be the folks that were around during the day anyways. So bringing that into the equation is now you're gotta have the same staff available. But you're just guaranteed to have them in the station now, and they can respond quicker.
Do you have anybody that would, or anyone that you know, that we could get a job qualification for a good chief?
A job, you mean a job description?
Job description, qualification, like a whole, what a good chief should have.
Right, I mean, we did one, it was a group of 5 or 6 of us that did it last time, but I would say an assessment center probably would be the best way to go. And I know the folks that wrote the report, they are able to do that, because they read the report and they said they can do that.
Well, yes, but I would suggest we use the old tried and true method. We turn down to the end of the table to Denise and say, what can we plagiarize from some other town or community?
Oh, I can get you any town's job description
There we
that you'd
go.
like.
Yeah.
And as long as it's robust enough and comprehensive enough, I think it'll satisfy our needs as well.
Yeah, I don't think you should pay someone to do a job description.
No, not something that we can probably pluck off
No,
the internet.
I didn't know if they had, the department had like these things they can get already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we-
I can get them.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did one, and that's exactly what we did. We looked at probably about 10 or 12
Right.
different towns, our size.
Change the name to Groveland.
Yeah, and we took some things that we didn't think we needed some stuff. So a lot of them were more residential than we are. We do have some industry, so we needed maybe a little bit more in those areas from the standpoint of fire prevention. But yeah, we tailed one.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're back to what we said, we need a chief.
Yeah.
I mean, we need a commander to take things down, so,
Yeah, it all starts from the head.
Right.
All the way down.
right.
So I think the next step would be we need
Ask
a
Denise to get it.
comprehensive job description that we can
Right.
all agree on.
Right,
And then put it out to post, and then get some candidates in here, and then
Right, but
But,
before we
uh,
do that, do we need to talk about 40 hours and
I
where do we
think-
find the money? That's not-
Yeah, so you need
that's
salary
a different-
hours, and you need to, right, so I can give you samples of job descriptions, that's
No,
fine.
no, but do we have the 40-hour money in the budget if you were to
Yep.
hire someone?
No.
So that's gotta be done
No,
before
it's
town meeting
saying
and
we
all
have
that.
to rearrange the egg basket a
right.
little bit.
Right.
Correct.
Deputy Chief Rochelle, you said 40 hours. Could it be done in 30, 32?
I don't think so. Things are gonna slip by the wayside. Could you do it 32? Yeah, but things aren't gonna get done. I mean, one of the biggest things is training, and just keeping on top of that and getting, curriculum into the hands of the instructors. And that's the most difficult thing we have from the standpoint of training is developing and implementing good curriculum. Just because we don't have a lot of time to develop it ourselves, we have to go look for it. But I would say that I don't think it would be anything less than a 40-hour-week job. And typically, that turns into more than 40 hours a week. Full-time fire chief job, I don't think is just like the police chief job, I don't think it's 40 hours a week. It's whenever you need it.
None of
Kind
us
of like
are.
a selectman job,
Right.
huh?
So-
24/7.
So that being said, if we were to go for a chief for 40, could we add the admin into that job title as well? Do you think he could do the full-time chief and the admin position at the same time?
I would say that you probably want to start there, yeah. Yeah, and see what happens.
Because, I mean, I don't think the department's probably 100% at 40, but if we can add the admin in, and the second,
Especially if you're not doing, the ambulance,
Right.
ambulance billing can be
Right.
time-consuming.
yeah,
Just even getting it out to the billing company, the third-party billing company. But I would say, yeah, you'd start with, the position without a,
Yep.
and then move from there, because quite frankly, there's not even any room in the fire station for an admin.
Ambulance billing?
What's that?
no, if we took that on.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no,
Right,
we're
right,
never
yeah.
gonna take that on.
Right,
Yeah.
no, he's
That's a
saying if we
loser.
had that, it would.
No, what I'm saying is if you had that would be an issue time away from other duties, because it's time consuming, that's all.
Right, to have an ambulance service in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge loser as far, anyone I've ever seen is a loser. They're losing money left and right. It's a drain on cash.
Do you,
So I can't see this department ever going to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down, I mean, I don't think we're ready for that either, because I don't think we could staff it with our current model. It would be very difficult to staff.
I don't think the
ambulance.
taxpayers are ready to subsidize it either, because.
No,
that's
We don't
what
have
it
the
what it
call
comes down,
volume. We don't have the call volume.
Yeah.
They've actually said that right in the report. We just
Yeah.
don't have the numbers to sustain
what
that.
it comes down to is if the folks want the service, if they want an ambulance in town, that's what it comes down to. But if we can make our numbers, we make our numbers on the zone plan.
do you think that if we went with a chief, you don't think it would take right now, some of our men are doing the job of the chief, I mean,
Yeah.
we're dividing it up.
Yeah.
Do you think by taking that away from them, they'll get bored and it'll drop boredom, or do you think they?
No.
No,
No.
No.
I still think there's gonna be plenty of opportunity to be involved.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunity.
Because I know, like, if I go to one of my help and I say to them, hey, you're doing an awesome job, you're doing great, and I'm constantly praising them, and, hey, can you do this little project for me? They
Yeah.
feel involved, they feel important, and they excel.
No, I think a good chief will continue that effort.
Okay.
You know, someone who understands the call aspect of the job.
Yeah.
And of the fire service. I think that will be part of their environment that they
Right,
create.
okay. All right,
Okay,
so we need a job description, qualification, all that put together next, I think.
Step one is hours.
Mm-hmm.
Can't put a job description if we don't know how many hours we're gonna ask this person to work, male or female,
And get a budget together.
and get a budget together. Without hours has to be one, then job description.
Doesn't
say.
the report recommend 30?
It recommends 40 plus an admin of 20.
No, it recommended, I think, 32
32?
hours to start. It doesn't recommend,
Admin, right?
well, eventually, but I would disagree with that.
So would I.
The last time I did a survey was last April, and I think everyone but West Newbury was a full-time chief. Just see if I can pull it up.
And those positions hold how many hours?
So, so the comparable ones like Dunstable, which is a smaller population, their chief is 24 hours. Merrimack has a full-time chief. West Newbury, it's a 30-hour chief, at least according to last year's survey. So Westminster has the closest number of residents, they have a 23-hour chief. Then next is, I guess, Halifax at a 20-hour a week chief. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, that's wrong. That was the number of call firefighters, 20. For the salaries, the average is 79,000 for a full-time chief for the communities roughly our size.
So.
Average
that being-
hours, about 30? Is that
Yes, but-
possible to determine?
They're all listed as full-time, which I think for us, we requested if they were 40 hours or less. If they were less, we listed them as that. So the majority of them are full-time, 40 hours.
So if you're gonna bring someone in, and you're gonna pay him over the 20-hour, and you're gonna make him benefit eligible, you might as well get your bang for your buck. Give them the 40 hours and give them the admin position and give them the bang for the buck as far as you're gonna be paying.
Can I ask when you say give them the admin
Yeah,
position?
can you
Well,
clarify that?
have them do the admin work that they,
Oh.
that
Oh,
the
oh.
MRI
Okay.
is saying.
When you say give them the admin, we thought
No.
you meant give them an admin too.
No.
Okay.
MRI states they needed to have one person do one and the other do that. We tell this person, you're gonna do this and this, but you're gonna work 40 hours, or whatever. I just think if you're gonna be paying the benefit eligible package anyway.
Over 20, you might as well
Right,
get it all.
Right, you might as well get it all, and write the
Well-
thing up the right way.
And at that point, it's a salaried position, and if it needs to work 80 hours a week, it works 80 hours a week.
Exactly.
I mean, it's, once you get to 40 hours, it's a
Right. and to go-
FLSA
and to-
exempt position.
To go back to Bill's point a minute ago, we don't have the money in the budget. Do we have to have this ready for this upcoming town meeting to change the budget, to have the money? Are they gonna have to vote on it?
Depends when you plan to hire this person. If you're
Well-
planning to get the process going, then yes, we need to
Well,
put
it's
in
been
the
9
budget.
months, I'm ready to do it as soon as we can get, before the town people do what we need to do. I think we could have done this a long time ago, and that's just my personal opinion of
Yeah,
it.
then we need to change the budget request, so.
I would anticipate hiring someone before June 30th. I would think. But we should have enough money in this year's budget to,
No,
no? Because we didn't pay
we didn't pay, we've been paying an interim chief.
we didn't save any money there. So for the last half
But
of
I would
this
say at this
fiscal year-
point, it's almost March. By the time you go through the process and hire someone, you could have a July 1st start date.
Right,
Pretty close,
Right.
too.
but we have to get the money in the budget to do that.
Yes.
Now, we pretty much know that we're talking about a 40-hour position. Stop kicking the can down the road. Do we put the admin position with the chief, give it 40 hours? Maybe when we have the person come in and we advertise it, we add more to the package. I don't know. I mean, get the biggest bang you can for your buck. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, it's not unlike the interviews we just did. I mean, you made it clear to our new superintendent, highway superintendent, they have to do the admin work. I mean, we just
Right.
don't have that capability to
Right.
have additional
Right.
staff.
And they're gonna
Right.
paint buildings
just
in their
don't
spare
have it.
time.
right, and then when this person gets in the position, this chief gets into the position, he may come back to us down the road and say, I can't do this job, or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know, but the point is, we gotta get something, we gotta get the person in place. You gotta get the person in place, it should have been in place, we gotta get this person in place. We don't know what we don't know until we get them in position, get them in the job, get them seated, and let's get going. I mean, we hired a town planner, from what I can see personally, it's worked out great. We hired a conservation agent, it worked out great. So I think the town government, and I know, like Ed said, we have to worry about our taxpayers, et cetera, I agree. But the point is, our government is growing to a certain point where we have to grow with the times too. Don't throw money away, I agree, don't throw it away, but on the same token, put the tools in place that we need. Just like we need a truck to plow the road, or we need a new ladder truck. I mean, this is part of the business.
I agree. And if the circumstances had been anywhere near normal with the last fire chief, I don't think we'd have waited this much time would have elapsed before we hired a new fire chief. But I think these are extraordinary circumstances, and for anybody to think this process could have been done quicker, I'll disagree with that all day and all night. We didn't really, we all wanted this consultation. I don't think there was anybody that disagreed with that. So this, we knew wasn't going to come to us before January. So there was gonna be no hire before January. So anybody that thinks that this was gonna get done 6 months ago was dreaming. I don't know how they can even contemplate that that could be the case. If they think we're dragging our feet, again, much like Lisa found out, things are a awful different on this side of the table than they are on that side of the table. So I'll disagree all day long that this should have been done earlier. I don't think it should have, I don't think it could have been done. I think this is a thing that we don't want to rush through. We want to make a good decision, much like the town planner. It took us the time, but I think at the end of the day, we ended up with a diamond. We took our time. We didn't rush and jump to the first one. We got a great one, I think. So, I think, again, we got to come down, the first question is got to be hours. Well, how many hours are we going to advertise? Are we going 40?
I say 40. I say 40, and when you do it, I say to add a chief that has to do the admin position. That's what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't even discuss the admin position. That's the role. The job is this and the admin position.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I agree with you. 40 hours then. Do you agree? Tough.
I would tend to lean towards the recommendations of the MRI and report and go with 30 or 32. 19 to 40 is a big jump. Is that enough time to do everything that is required of the job? Do the admin work? Probably. Is it too much time? I don't know. Right now, we have a hard time figuring out how we're gonna pay for it, so if we can start with 32 and come up with a budget for that, that's a little bit easier than coming up with a budget for 40, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. 32, if there, no distractions in the person's day, I think that's realistic.
If you were to get a 32-hour, I'm just the devil's advocate, if we would advertise for a 32-hour-a-week person, is that gonna get us a different type of person than if we said a 40?
Probably.
That's the only thing I look at. That's why I said 40.
Well,
yeah.
again, it depends what the salary is.
The other thing is, if he's the only person, she's the only person, don't discriminate, could be either or. If that's the only person here during the day,
We'll swap.
and that bell rings, that person has to leave whatever administrative or other work right where it is and go to the, so that's what I worry about with so few people available during the day. Is that person going to be just pulled away from, these duties to the point where nothing gets done and that starts to get pushed down the, that can get kicked down the road.
And he'll let us know.
I would hope. Well, that's a discussion right now, Ed, is 32 or 40? How do we advertise the job?
Well, according to their recommendation here, they said to start at 32.
They recommend 32, yeah.
At, somewhere in the,
But they recommended 32 with an admin.
no, not
No.
not if you read
Not
the-
originally. Or is
At page 43, recommendation 1.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
I think you're dealing with multiple points here with hours and budget and job descriptions and everything. And it's not an easy thing to wrangle down to something that satisfies all three of them.
If you look on page 43, it spells that out. Immediate step to search for full-time chief. The other alternative to the recommendation would be hire a fire chief for 32 hours per week to start, evaluate the benefits of converting the position to full-time after a year.
Well, 32 is basically full-time,
It's benefit eligible, so,
Right.
yes.
so,
So that, whether it's
yeah,
22 or 40,
Whether it's
Or
20 or
42.
40, it's benefit
it's
eligible.
benefit
Right.
eligible, so that doesn't matter.
right. So Bill, the discussion we're at right now is 32 hours or 40 hours. How do we want to advertise the job?
I'm gonna stay with 40. That's just me. I just think, I don't wanna spend the taxpayers' money no more than, I have to pay for it too, but I mean, I think from what's been presented to me from MRI report and past chiefs and people I've talked to, I definitely think that the position would take that to do it right. I don't have a problem with you guys wanna go with 32. We can start there and we can always have the person come in and say, I can't do the job. You know, if he can do it at 32 and he's fine, then we're not gonna hear from him. But if he can't do it, hopefully he's gonna come before us and say, I can't do this job, I need more
Right,
hours.
if he does do that, or she does do that, that means that we're gonna have to go and find budget for the extra 8 hours, again.
Right,
The
agreed.
the other way to look at it is you could say, here's the money, do the job, with leaving hours out of it. Here's X amount of dollars, do the job, and without putting in an hourly, a weekly hourly rate.
So we just advertise, you suggest we advertise a full-time
Just the
fire chief, no hours related?
No, don't put any hours in, just put a full-time
Looking
chief at
for a
X amount of
chief
dollars.
and an admin
No, no,
person.
just
To
a full-time
do
fire chief.
administrative
Right.
work.
I will go with Ed with that one. If it can be done,
And then
then you won't have the argument.
And then if something's not getting done, then we can come back and say, look, we gave you the money, we told you to do the job, and you didn't do the job, why? Just a
And
suggestion.
if that person, what Ed just said, the devil collaborative is, if that person, is reading the job criteria, 32 hours, X amount of dollars, and they don't think they can do it, they're not gonna go for it, you know what I mean? They're not gonna even sign up for the job if they don't think they can do it, most, you would think, right?
Right, well, again, I mean, a chief's position, once it's benefit eligible, should be FLSA exempt, and it should be, whether it's 1 hour or 80 hours a week, the job is the
Then
job.
we'll take the, like Ed said, take the hours out
So
of
if
it.
you're gonna just list, here's the
We'll just go to
salary,
a dollar
benefit
amount.
eligible.
Go to a dollar amount then.
Should we list minimum hours required? Just so
You
we
could-
don't get somebody who wants to work at home?
You could put a recommended, recommended hours
have a
are
couple of
X, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't put anything.
Yeah, I agree with that, don't put anything. Get the job done, do the job for us, get it done well. No,
yeah, the only thing though I would say to that is, if someone who's retired is looking to work, the state retirement board has a requirement of how many hours they can work a year. So that's the only thing that, may be tricky if you're trying to attract someone that's recently retired. We would have to associate hours for retirement purposes.
but I'm not looking,
But
What's that, 960, I know they upped the amount.
Yeah.
960 a year,
$960 a year.
which,
we're trying to get the best, the best.
what's that work down to in a week?
Well, 2,000 hours is a year, so you're looking at less than 6 months at full-time.
18 and a half.
Right, but that's if we were trying to find an ex-chief to do that, but that's just one piece. We could be trying to, some other guy could come in and want the job, you know what I mean? So I don't think we should, that's gonna be the person applying for it. That's their decision. Do I want this job because I only can work so many hours? I think we should come up, like Ed said, come up with a dollar amount, and don't even do the hours.
Where do we get the dollar amount from?
That's where we have to go next.
Well, like I said, there's 3 or 4 moving parts to this.
Right. So where do we come up with a dollar amount? We have to go to a new budget, right? Put it in the budget for it.
Take it from,
Take it from somewhere else.
Can we go to the new fiscal budget and get it? It's already been set.
Yeah,
For
we
July.
can.
No.
We
For
can-
July.
We can put it in the proposed budget, but again, the bottom line is still the bottom line. So we only have so much money. It means you cut elsewhere if you're gonna fund a
So
full-time
for the
position.
first, I don't know your job, I'm not, for the first year, could we take the money out of the general fund that we sold that land and allocate that toward this
No, that's
Nope.
free cash.
free cash? Okay.
No, but don't forget, whatever dollar amount you give to this, you have to add benefits. So all of the retirement, health
Yep.
insurance, Medicare, that all has to be factored in.
Yeah, and the sale of land is a one-time thing, this is gonna be a recurring.
No, I just thought that would get us out the gate for the first year. That's the only reason I said that, not for just get rid of them after a year. I was just thinking a way to pay for it for the first year.
Yeah,
So we don't have any money that we could put in for this position without going and doing a new budget and killing the budget to do it. When I say killing it, I mean we're gonna have to cut and slash and,
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut other budgets, just like we would with any appropriation. We have to find it elsewhere within our budget. We only have so much money that
Right.
we can raise, so,
right.
you know, 66% of that goes right to the schools.
No, I know.
So,
Doesn't leave a lot left. So,
but if it's a priority, then that's what we do. We prioritize. If this is important, then we find where we can cut. I just
What
need a
does the
number so I
position
can
pay
start
now?
looking at,
What does a position pay now?
28.
28, I think.
So 28 from the dollar amount we come up with, we have to find that money.
Correct. And again, there will be some savings because the employees are doing a lot of administrative work, a lot more than they were. So we have to look at that line and start looking to see what the chief can take back from that type of outsourced work from the staff. So there would be additional savings there.
But we're still gonna have to come up with $40,000 or $50,000.
Probably.
From somewhere else.
So do you want to
And
cap?
fund it year after year.
Correct.
So do you want to do your numbers and get back to us on the next meeting, what we can come up with? What you
No, I think it needs to be the other way around.
What's that?
I think you guys need to
We
pick
need
a
to-
number and I try and work into that.
So go back to your little, go back to your graph. What is the towns around here paying? You said 79?
The
79
median.
is the average.
Yep.
Full-time, 40 hours.
So if I take out the 2 part-time,
So what are we looking at, like 65, 75?
What's the height?
84. But I would say some of those are kind of, I mean, I think some of them are a bit,
84 is the median?
yeah, that's the average. I
What's,
mean,
what's the high?
Hanson is 100, well, the high is Topsfield's at 119,000.
And what's the low?
The low is Dunstable at 60,000.
Is Dunstable more comparable to us?
Dunstable is a smaller town, 3,300 population.
And Topsfield's a much more fluent town.
Topsfield has full-time staff, though.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you really can't.
They have a,
No, but that's quite a range, 60,000 to 120,000.
but the
That's a
town of
$60,000
I know,
Topsfield,
I
but the
know.
town of Topsfield's fire department budget is $718,000. Our fire department budget is $250,000.
So take the, his pay, I don't know if this makes sense, divide it by his budget, could that give you what, no, forget it.
Well, you
Getting
could,
late. Take this up another
I'm
night.
trying to get a percentage of the
Yeah, I'm
budget.
trying to get a percentage,
I
right.
can get you new salaries with the job descriptions if you'd like, if you want to think about, I mean, you don't have to make this decision tonight. You-
That's where I was
You don't
going
have a
with you.
job description, so I think if you want to think about it and we have the next meeting, I can present you with a chart and job descriptions.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier, can we, and a dollar amount with it. That's what I was saying.
well, you could throw the question back to the taxpayers, see how they feel about it, by doing an override. And ask them for an override for the salary for a full-time chief, and let them make the decision, do they want to go with a full-time chief, or keep it the way it is?
I would agree, but I don't think in a year that we're asking for a $150 million school is the appropriate time. for
No,
that override.
you're absolutely right.
Because I don't think it would pass at all.
And would that require an override each and every year after that?
No, once it's added, it's added.
So let's,
So that would, the taxpayers would vote to add that to the tax levy, the 2.5%, that's
We're
added
not
as a
talking-
permanent. Whereas a debt exclusion, it falls off when it's paid for.
we're talking roughly to find 40, 50,000 in that range. Let's let you do your business, what you do best, and come back to us. I know you probably have a lot on your plate, but just add one more thing to it.
No. Am I coming back with, I'm coming back with job descriptions and salaries from surrounding towns.
Right,
Gotta-
that we can get a general.
What I would
easy
like to
enough.
see
I guess.
comparable
Yeah, that's
towns,
easy enough.
comparable departments, you know, if you could. I mean, I know I'm asking a lot, but, you know, something as comparable as we can get it.
What's theirs?
Merrimack, oh no, they didn't give me a salary.
Well, we're so unique here in Groveland, I'm not
But
sure
they have
anybody can
budgets,
compare
right,
to
but they
us.
have an ambulance, you can't use Merrimack, they have an ambulance,
Yeah.
and they are losing money on their ambulance.
Okay, so we'll leave it there, you got it.
Yeah, I'll get you some data for next meeting,
That we can look
and then
at.
you guys can decide what you'd like to do. So,
Moving right along. Fiscal 2020 budget and warrant article discussion.
Nobody brought that forward. Ed brought it forward.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, appreciate it.
so I don't know if anyone had any questions, if anyone has anything that they'd like to
do.
discuss.
I would like to see if we are going to put on the town article to make our town clerk position from elected to appointed, just like we're trying to do, making the highway department into.
But we have done. We
Right,
did do that.
right, but we're trying to make the department into a different format or whatever. In the town, we're trying to roll it hopefully into a town manager, which this would be one piece of the puzzle that needs to be taken care of. And I think now's the time to do it because we are coming up on our election and what have you.
You wouldn't roll town clerk into town manager.
No,
Okay. Oh, I misunderstood.
No, I'm trying to make the town clerk an appointed position rather than elected position. I'd like to see that get put on the town article.
Agree with you 1,000,000% and much for the same
Only,
reasons that
and
we
my
did with
backup,
it.
I'll say it slow this time, maybe you'll understand it better. My backup to that is because we're trying to change this government over to the right government, getting rid of all the elected positions so we can ultimately get to a town manager. And
Yep, so does accountability.
Doesn't that take, in addition to a town meeting vote, a ballot box vote?
Depends how you handle it. So there's two ways to handle elected to appointed. With the highway position, you chose to do special legislation and a non-binding ballot question. There's no requirement to do a ballot question. If you choose that route, then when the special, if it passes town meeting and the governor signs a special legislation, whomever was elected would serve the remainder of their term. They would become appointed at that time, but they would stay in until the remainder of their term. So whoever's elected now would be elected through 2022. Their appointment would run until 2022. So
I mean, the next person or that person.
then you
would be
either
appointed.
choose to reappoint that person or go back out. But whoever's, so that's the special legislation route. The other route would not require special legislation. It requires a town meeting vote and then a ballot question. But there has to be at least 60 days between the town meeting vote and the ballot question. So that could be a this year town meeting, next year ballot question. And then it would take effect upon the ballot question passing. So you could handle it either way if you chose to move forward.
That's the easiest way to handle it. Right? The latter of the two?
I guess it depends on preference. I mean, if you do special legislation, it's one town meeting and then it goes to the state like we did with the highway.
But the other way, there's no special legislation, we don't have to go to the state, we can just do it.
Well, you can't just do it. It requires a ballot question.
Right,
Right.
but
Right.
once that passes, it's done.
Yeah, if it passes, yes.
If it passes, when it
Yes.
passes.
If it passes.
Okay.
That would require a majority of those voting. Town meeting and special legislation requires a majority of town meeting. However you want to handle it, again, if you do. Those are the differences with the
I say
change of
the-
position.
it doesn't matter to me. I think it just needs to be taken care of one way or another. I mean, I know we have an election coming up for that position, so the people that get elected into that position,
Should know that.
right, if we're gonna go this route, we should,
Right, but again, if,
if they won the election.
they would
could
stay in
cut-
it for the remainder of their term regardless.
Right.
So you
Right.
can't just vote, you can't
Just,
elect someone and then get rid of them the
But
next
if we went
day.
to an appointed position and it passed, we could maybe take those people that ran and interview them for the job or whatever. They could interview for that job? If
Sure,
it
they
became
could.
appointed?
If it
anybody,
becomes
They're elected,
appointed,
they have to
whoever
serve
is
their term.
elected
Oh,
becomes appointed to fill out the remainder of their term. Whoever wins
Oh.
the election is in there for 3 years, unless they
Okay.
choose to resign.
okay.
and
They
then,
just become appointed and answer to
All
this
right, I got what
board
you're saying
for the
now.
remainder of their
All
term.
right.
then in May
That's how it works.
2022, when their term is up,
Yep.
You can either
Okay.
choose to, maybe by that point it's 3 years, they're doing a great job, you choose
Okay.
to
All right, I
reappoint
got
them.
what you're saying.
Or you could post, right, then it would be an annual appointment. Or you could choose to post it.
Hmm.
But whomever gets elected would be in there for the term.
Okay. Well, I said originally to put on the ballot. I mean, make it a ballot question. That's my appointment. And if you guys want to go the other route, go the other route. I just like to see it that's one department that we need to,
Right, so again, the ballot would be next year.
right,
Yeah, I agree.
So town meeting warrant this year, ballot question in 2020.
Sounds good to me.
are we
How about
voting?
you?
You should vote where it's at.
I'm going to recuse myself because my wife's running for town clerk.
You. Okay. Well, if you want to make a motion.
So I'll make a motion that it goes on to the town ballot,
Town warrant.
warrant this year, and next year it would go on to the town ballot, and that would be to make the clerk's position from elected to appointed.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the matter? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Abstain.
All those against,
Opposed.
opposed? And one abstention. And with regards to other budget or warrant article items, are there any at this time?
I'd like to see something for this coming town meeting with electronic voting. And I think that, based upon the vote that was taken at the last town meeting, I think that people become intimidated and they don't want to vote against a particular article. Maybe they're sitting next to some friends of theirs. So I think we should look at electronic voting for the town meeting.
So that would require a bylaw. So you would like me to draft a bylaw to implement electronic voting?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is everyone good with that?
I think we've been trying to do that for years.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
okay. Because the other option would be, we rent the equipment and put it to a vote at the beginning of town meeting, and if it fails, we lose that money. So the better approach is to put a bylaw in place, and then it would start the following year, allow us time to buy the
What
equipment.
is the, what would the cost be to lease it for the meeting, one meeting?
I don't remember. We looked
I wanna say
into
it was
that a few years
5,000.
ago.
And I know I looked at it
Yeah.
before,
Few
but.
thousand.
It was a couple
5,000 to
thousand.
rent it.
What was it?
Yes, it was a couple thousand.
Yeah.
I don't recall the exact
3 or
amount.
5. It was in that range.
I'm sure I could get into my email and look, but I can certainly get a article together for that.
Any others?
No, just the, have you heard, and can we even talk about it, what projects came forward, have any decisions been made on what, CPA projects came forward or anything like that yet, have you heard? Okay,
I'm waiting on the warrant articles.
all right, sounds good. All right, that's it.
He's working on it right now.
No, that's it for me, though.
Warrant articles. Mike?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So I'll just keep this on every agenda.
Right, because we still have the budget, and I notice only,
This is the only night I didn't bring it.
I hear you, I know,
See, Ed's prepared.
I did the same thing, I took the other things as a bigger priority right now, just to get through them. So that, we'll keep that on every agenda and continue discussing that. So the next item we have is the Tea Garden Restaurant's request for a
Tea Garden.
Keno license.
Gamble.
Yes, so you'll see the letter we received from the State Lottery Commission.
Yep.
If the board has any concerns, we could certainly bring in the owners for a hearing. Otherwise, if there's no objections from the board, they'll just proceed with issuing a license.
Any objections, Selectman Wood?
I'm surprised they didn't have that in place already, so.
Selectman Dunn, any
I have
objections?
no objections.
Selectman Watson?
No, why not?
I have none either. God bless him. Okay, well,
Now we're moving.
almost. Thank God we got Denise out of the way early.
No, you're gonna get me out of the way.
Okay, so we have votes of the board. We have minutes from the January 22nd, 2019 meeting.
I read them, I think they're
Yep.
fine.
Yeah, they look to be in order, move for passage.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Great, seeing as there's none, all those in favor? Terrific. We have minutes from the January 24th, 2019 special meeting.
All set. Move on.
Is that a motion?
That, is your all set in the
Rocket.
form of a
Read 'em.
motion?
It's my motion, they're all set, read them, they're good to go.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second the all set.
Beautiful. Seeing as there's any further discussion, seeing as there's none, all those in favor? Great.
Abstain,
And,
abstain, I wasn't here.
yeah, you're okay. And then they accept the resignation of Emily Stanton from the Police Department effective February 8th, 2019.
Yes, so it's a shame that we're losing Emily. She is,
Yes.
has been deployed with the Coast Guard.
Yep.
She is down in Cuba. We wish her well and hope that her deployment is safe and
She
healthy for
comes
her.
back.
And she gets paid.
Yes.
Not from us.
No, from the
No, from the
federal.
Coast
Oh,
Guard.
right, yes.
She'll be getting paid.
Yes.
Listen, they weren't getting paid for
I
35
know.
days, don't tell me that.
And that she comes back.
You never know what that guy'll do.
Yes, she would love to come back if there's a full-time position. She had to resign from her full-time position initially with us because of her deployment,
Is it a
so.
1 year? Is that what it is?
366 days is her deployment.
Good luck.
Yep.
Motion to accept the resignation of Emily Stanton from the police department effective February 8th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the matter? Seeing as there's none, all those in favor?
Yep.
Okay, we have selectmen time and report. Selectman Watson, would you like to start that?
I don't have anything.
Selectman Dunn?
I was just gonna ask, no, not that, no, we'll skip that, it's almost 10 o'clock. All
I don't
set.
care what time it is. I'm here till
Nope,
we
skip it.
get it done.
Move on.
I'll stay here all night, Bill. If you got something to
I'm
say.
No, I'm
leaving.
good, I'm good.
I'm leaving at 10.
You're staying, Charlie, till we're through. And 5 minutes extra just for good behavior. Selectman Wood?
It's all good. No, I got two things. I've been asked to attend a meeting with the school superintendent and the We Are Pentucket Senior Panel on Council of Aging. The idea being, seniors can come and ask any questions that they may have regarding the school project, and ideally have the right folks in the room to answer their questions accordingly. For Groveland, that is March 12th at 11:30 a.m. I believe it's here, but I need to clarify that. Also,
Can you get me that information for the website when you have it?
sure, yep. Also, we have a tentative meeting with Senator Tarr's office on the Washington Street Valley Screw Building. The follow-up that Bill Dunn and I had with Senator Tarr and the DEP and Denise and some Representative Mira, trying to figure out what we could do with that building, what our options are. So we have a follow-up meeting scheduled for March 21st. And then as that gets closer, we'll determine I think it's at 7 o'clock, but we'll determine what we can do as next steps for that and take appropriate action. And that's it.
Is
Okay.
that 7 at night?
Yes, because I think Senator Tarr's office told me that there could be a special session of the Senate that day, and he'd only be able to get up here for an evening meeting, so.
So that will be here?
Yes. Tentatively, it's for 7 o'clock at night.
Okay,
Hopefully that special session has to deal with the additional funds for new school building projects that'll be allocated from the governor.
I did ask him for that last time I was in the office.
I ask him that every time I see him, believe
I
me.
did not leave that office without asking.
The education governor, I want to see him live up to that moniker. As far as selectmen time reports, we had a fantastic meeting last Tuesday.
It was Wednesday. 'cause
It was Wednesday, that's right, because we had, the storm was on Tuesday, so we had to postpone it till Wednesday. The schematic design phase came in for the new building project. It came in at $9.4 million less than had previously been projected. Total cost is now estimated at much closer to $144 million than $155. We're also looking at a 30-year fixed-rate bond currently at 2.75. That would mean if, and and this is math, the rough math now, so don't hold me to any figures. But if your home value was about $425,000, your yearly, the yearly payment on that would be roughly about $1.50 a day, is what it figures out to be, for a brand-new school. $1.50 a day for two brand-new schools, state-of-the-art, 50-year-plus life expectancy. I think that the committee did a fantastic job scraping that, sharpening the pencils over and over again to drive that cost down. And I think it's a number we can all live with, especially when compared to renovation and total rehab of the existing building, which would be about a 20-year life expectancy. I think it's a great value.
And a much higher cost.
And a much higher cost at the end of the day, because we wouldn't be able to float the bond for that long, and you wouldn't get such a great interest rate on it as well.
And I think it's important, I don't want to interrupt, but I think it's important
do.
to point out with the school project that even if, there's no way around paying for something, right? You're gonna either pay what you know you're gonna pay, or you're gonna pay something 4 or 5 years from now, and you have no idea what that cost is gonna be. So there's no getting around voting no and not paying anything at any point. At some point, you're gonna pay something. Do you wanna pay what you know you're gonna pay now, or do you wanna take a gamble and pay whatever number gets thrown at you in 4 years?
At that point, that number's gonna have to be just picked up, and I would be surprised if it went 5 years.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I know I've had this discussion, how many folks out there drive a 1957 vehicle as your everyday vehicle? I mean, if you do, hold your hand up and be proud. You're pretty good. Most of us don't, though. And that's just the reality of the situation. And that was it. Our next meeting will be the second Tuesday of March. Should have some feedback from the MSBA by then, and then there'll be town meeting on April 29th,
Yes.
and election on May the 6th, and we'll know much more than then. So that was my selectmen's reports.
Now, what, you said the second Monday of March, what happened to the first Monday of March?
I give up. What happened the first Monday of March?
Well, that should be the next scheduled meeting. We're meeting every 2 weeks.
Oh, no,
the school
School
building
building committee,
Oh,
I'm
School
sorry.
Building Committee. Okay.
School building committee meets the second Tuesday of every month. And that was all from me. So old and unfinished business. Mike, Selectman Wood?
Nothing.
Selectman Dunn?
I was just wondering, do we have any, when we're gonna talk about the town survey?
Caitlin's finishing it up. It actually takes quite a bit of time to enter each one. So I think she told me today she has 370 of them entered. She probably has another 75 to 100 left to go. So she
Okay.
will have them done by the next meeting,
Awesome.
now that excise is slowing down for us.
I think that's it for tonight. Tired.
Selectman Watson?
I haven't got anything.
A couple of things real quick, again, to reiterate, Selectman Wood, the last two storms, Highway Department is doing an incredible job. You can, even if you don't see the street, you can hear the difference as minute you cross over the town line. It goes from to wet, and it's just a great feeling to know that our roads are so clean and so neat after a snowstorm. I do have a couple of quick things. I have an email from the American Diabetes Association for a North Shore Tour for the Cure. Is this something that we need to vote on or ratify?
It
Is
comes
it-
every year.
He comes every year. Is
No,
this,
they just need to send it to me.
they just need to send it to you?
They
Every
need
year
to
you tell
email
me
me.
Some reason they send it
Because
to
then
me
I
every
just
year.
coordinate with the police department, and as long as the police are all set, we give them the go-ahead.
Okay, so Matthew Neto, the Associate Director of the Event Production, please contact Denise, she'll help you out.
He probably does not live in town.
Well,
On the interwebs.
Give the letter.
and
Put it on the
that's,
wires.
that's not
On the
what we
line,
will
on the
talk, we're not gonna talk about that tonight, for sure. And the other thing is, I've noticed the last couple of days, we've had some issues in town regarding fentanyl, well, I'm glad to say that our police force is up to the challenge each and every time. They're getting these bad guys off the road, making our streets safer, and for that, that's a great big kudos to Chief Gillen and the police force. Thank you for keeping us safe. Continue the good work in getting these drunken druggies off our roads. And that's it for my time. Are there any other items reasonably anticipated at time of posting? Okay, I guess nobody wants to be here anymore.
No way.
It's a long night.
It's, yeah, well, you know, sometimes it
You and I
is what
can
it is.
stay. You and I can stay.
I'll stay all night. Listen, it doesn't bother me.
Don't
You
want
know what I
to
mean? That's why they pay us the big bucks, Bill, right?
I made 22 cents tonight.
Correspondence, we have minutes from February 4th, 2019. We have the Groveland Summer 2019 Recreation Program brochure. If you haven't done it, summer program at Bagnell is awesome. Get in. Is that what it is, right? That's the
Yes,
summer
no, I
program.
apologize, I was yawning.
Oh,
Denise,
and a letter from Mass Housing looking for feedback regarding the Corey apartment proposal. I think that's all we got.
Motion to adjourn at 9:56.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.